Greetings. Topic of this video is Global Elite Meeting in Davos, Switzerland, World Economic Forum, Elites to Decide Our Future. First, before further ado, we're going to give a disclaimer. This video is for educational, informational, entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information being presented. These are simply my opinions on the topic being discussed. Please keep in mind everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. All rights are reserved. Now let's get into this. The topic of the video is the Davos meeting I wanted to talk about, to discuss before you guys. I wanted to do a continuation from yesterday. I didn't get around to it. Still gathering some more data, some more information. I have a friend of mine that's studying the Grant Cardone classes. He's a student of Robert Kiyosaki. He was giving me some information he recognizes, some things that I've shared with him that he had been on the fence about sovereignty for a number of years. And he said now, in more recent times, more recent years, his eyes have really opened up to what a lot of what I was telling him about. He was, really unsure about, and I get the concern he had, but I wanted to give an eye opener because this is a topic that he does know about, and I feel the general public needs to be aware of who these people are and what they're planning. I'm going to try to do my level best. I don't have all my notes with me, so forgive me. I'm going to have to freestyle off the top of the head. But many of you all that have followed my channel, by the way, I appreciate you all that continue to rock with me, that continue to support Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, hit the notification bell to subscribe to get updates whenever I put out future videos. By the way, that helps grow the channel. You're welcome to share these videos. Helps grow the channel as well. But I wanted to discuss the Davos meeting set to take place this January 16th through the 20th, I believe. You can look it up, type in Davos. I think it's World Economic Forum is the other term. I looked up some years ago. It happens in Davos, Switzerland. It's like the daylight version of the secret Bilderberg meeting, maybe on the same scale, because the elites are aware they wanted the Bilderberg meeting to stay secret for a number of years. But investigative journalists from around the world uncovered who they were throughout the years. It was rarely, vaguely even reported on. They wanted to keep it secret, but nowadays they're upfront, in your face. And that's what Davos, a friend of mine, told me years ago. Said that name is maybe a Latin name for, he said that's David. I don't know what that officially translates to. For overseas, which language specifically. But he said it means David, that term Davos. The elites always keep in mind they use subliminal messages, symbology and things when you study further. There's books and stuff on that Borders Books, Barnes and Noble, in case you're wondering, used to sell, because some people think this information, I know, is esoteric. It's not common or still known to some of the average people, but a lot of people I do know for sure are waking up and do know who the Illuminati are. They shouldn't be afraid to say that word anymore. I told a friend of mine, I used to get nervous when I used to say that. I said, there's so many people that know, the Illuminati is like a household name. With you guys, but of course, dealing with the censorship and stuff, there may be certain terms blacklisted, like that's why I don't mention Pizzagate as much. That was an actual scandal, by the way, and that's neither here nor there, because this wasn't the topic. I did cover that in the past, and you kind of know what happened, so I have to talk about that on my other platforms once I get more acclimated. Rumble will probably be the preferred platform that I discuss that on, but there's still a possibility once I become more acclimated to give you guys a heads up in case anything happens to me over here. You check the description box of previous videos, even if you have to go all the way back. I am on minds.com. That's MINDS. M is in match or map. I is in Icarus, N is in Nancy, D is in Davos, S is in Sam, minds.com. That's another independent web hosting video platform. Also, like a combination of a, you could say, YouTube and a Twitter. Well, maybe more so closer to Twitter. They also use cryptocurrencies to decentralize to help the platform, meaning the more you spend time growing your channel on that platform, they will reward you in crypto, which can somehow be converted over in its own form of currency over there. I think I have some, and I haven't really tinkered around with it in a while. Like I said, it's a lot of stuff. I don't have a team like big media organizations that can hire people. Of course, my channel's been censored, shadow banned before, so it's been, difficult throughout the years to recruit people because you got to pay people too, which I don't have a problem, wouldn't have a problem doing. But this channel has been drastically censored to the point it takes several months before I even see the monetization anymore. Sometimes that's without the super chat, etc. I know some people show how much they make. It's people that have been able to replace their jobs to show how biased YouTube is. But that's neither kind of here nor there. But I always want to let you guys know I've been a victim. I've been prey to the egregious form of censorship and the weaponization of the big tech giants. And that's something that they're going to be discussing at the Davos group that they continually discuss at the secret Bilderberg meetings. They're planning on how they can control society better. So in case you're wondering, the Davos World Economic Forum members, what they do is they summons top CEOs from around the world, influencers, people from different industries, state governments, politicians. I found out from Michigan, my own governor, Gretchen Whitmer, is being invited. I believe I can tell already she's being tapped to become president, just like the Bilderberg meeting. They decide who future presidents are, even though I heard her say she wouldn't run in 2024, but she did mention, I think previously, she would not rule it out, by the way. I'm not saying that for 2024, but I think down the road that she said she wouldn't rule it out completely, by the way, because I know they did the similar thing with, we had a former governor, Jennifer Granholm, some years ago. They were trying to do the same thing similarly, but they can decide, it can be a spur of the moment. These people are powerful. They can put a lot of pressure on you. They can threaten families and stuff. That's the muscle these people have. You're talking about Klaus Schwab. If you haven't heard of, you can look up Klaus Schwab, the fourth industrial, what does he call it? The fourth industrial revolution. I think, even though that may be the name of his book, where they want to move us to a technocratic society where they want to use artificial intelligence and technology to microchip people, surveil you, track you everywhere you go. But they need to sell this to you that this is cool, this is hip, like the iPhone or the Apple Watch or the what do you call that other watch they have? I used to actually have one of those. I can't even think of the name, but you guys can remind me. They want to sell this idea that the future is here. If you've ever heard of Brave New World, the movie, the book by Aldous Huxley, something like that. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name, but Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. You can look up on YouTube. They had like an older movie, and it was supposed to be based in the future. This is actually based off the book that was written by, I think, once again, the name is something like Aldous Huxley or something like that. I get the concept because I did look it up a while ago. I looked at part of the movie. It was like an older movie. I had never heard of it before until I had found out from InfoWars, of course, because they do put out a lot of good information, contrary to popular belief, contrary to many of the lies in the mainstream media, especially in regards to that lawsuit, by the way, and the weaponization of that. But I've learned a lot throughout the years. I do take the time diligently from time to time to do the research, but I felt this was an important topic I wanted to cover, and I may do a continuation. This may be a series because I want you guys to see who they are. It's been a while. If you scroll back when I first started doing YouTube videos earlier on in my channel, I did videos covering, are they the good guys or the bad guys? Something like that. Because I wanted you guys to make your own assessment and let me know what you think. Right now, even though I didn't put Q&A in the chat, you guys are welcome to ask me questions, but I want to get you guys' take. Do you all know who these people that I talk about are? Do you think this is important? Do you think that this ties in with the banking system, with the new currency that they're trying to roll out, of the new digital system? Because I heard they're going to be moving away from calling it cryptocurrencies to digital assets, that they're trying to put these regulations in place. And that's why I said the dev teams, the developers for Shiba Inu, Shibarium, if you're invested in that, any of those currencies, or I've heard of Luna token, or Cardano, or Shiba Inu, or Volt Inu, any of these meme currencies or cryptocurrencies, I would behoove you. I was given some powerful information. They're trying to close ranks, and I would encourage the development teams, projects that are involved in those, to hurry up. And I actually was listening to one of Currency 365's videos, who puts out excellent information as well to keep us informed. And he was saying, I didn't even have no idea that the World Economic Forum at one time, not too long ago, wanted to meet with the developers of Shiba Inu. And I said, mighty interesting. And he encouraged them not to, because they want to control it. They want, if they would get a hold of it or infiltrate it, then you know what this will be about. They'll do similar to what they did to the GameStop situation with the, a lot of people, when that stock was going up, that app, for example, Robinhood, in real time, made people sell. Like one guy mentioned, when his stock that he had purchased from GameStop had hit like $300, people were made to sell at different amounts, 500. And this proves, I had a subscriber, someone out there that actually wanted me to cover this, but I didn't know enough in terms of the language they use, the economic language. That's why I would have to brush up to do my homework. But the short squeeze, from what I understand, it was a group of guys on Reddit that had planned to somehow disrupt the hedge fund that they had discovered was heavily tied in with a lot of these different stocks that they manipulate or whatnot. And they knew with the way social media is and the influence that people have, that they could team up and cause some type of disruption, and ended up equivalating into the poor people, or the average guy, being able to, the people on the inside that knew how to do what they do with the stock thing. I understand. I'm not aware. I would have to take classes how people can make money even when stocks are going down. Like, I know about that off the options. Somebody was supposed to train me years ago, but they got so busy. They had mentioned to me verbally at one time, and I never really brought it up, maybe one other time. Again, I would have loved to know, but it's so much things and information nowadays we're being bombarded with. And that's an advantage that the elites had, and why you guys wonder why I ranted when I attended those Pastor Tony King seminars. The name ended up changing to Kingship Manna Coalition, and I got the black card, and why I was upset that I never got funded. And the argument that I was making, part of my argument was because they already know how many of the elites how to trade, and we were given an ironclad guarantee that was going to be fail-proof as a backup. And I was informed by one of my sources that was a separate transaction from our DTC transaction, that stands for the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation out of New York, by the way. So that's why I kind of just wanted to give you guys the backstory behind that while I ranted sometimes. This information is real, and I had planned on revisiting that topic because I was still highly, highly upset about that, but I had to get my emotions under control and things. And I do know about this thing they're doing with XRP, but nothing can make up for what they did to us. That was very cruel. It's very evil. There needed to be a national outcry on the level. This is a form of what they did to us is financial terrorism. I had a lady, I won't say her name, she's in contact with me, text me quite a bit. I don't really use my text that much. I even tell my family members even Facebook Messenger, even though I am on there, and I know that is public. I don't use the Messenger at all, by the way, anymore. I have the app or whatever, but I don't use that, and I rarely, from time to time, unless it's important, immediate family members, I respond to texts, things of that sort. Other than that, I don't really. A lot of times, just because time during the day, social media, you guys know, can also take up your time. It's like a dream world. When that's what they want to do, Yuval Noah Harari, who's an advisor to Klaus Schwab with the World Economic Forum, basically the Davos group, which the topic of this video, they planned on meeting January 16th through the 20th. And what I understand, I looked up on a map some years ago, found out Davos is located in Switzerland, I believe. Some people say it's in the Alps or whatever. It's generally cold. I heard that they didn't have a lot of snow this time, so they're trying to, of course, blame that on climate change. But you have to be careful. I'm putting you guys up on game that climate change thing is a hustle by them, by the way, where they want to seize power. We knew this years ago with one of the Rothschild descendants, David D. Rothschild, was pushing the green movement, and they've translated this from what used to be Agenda 21 has now been pushed back to Agenda 2030, and Klaus Schwab is serious. If they get their way and enough people don't wake up and fight back, he says you will own nothing and you will be happy. And they poison the food supply. They put things in there. This is already going on in Canada. I found out in the so-called vegan type food, they're putting something that's found that only insects can digest in their digestive system. Forget what it's called. It starts with the L. It's called lectin or something. This investigative journalist named Max Egan, I think he's out of Australia. He did some documentaries. He was breaking down how that cannot be processed by humans. I didn't know he was still around. I just happened to catch a video from him. I can't remember which platform it may have been on. May have been Band.video, but I'm not sure, by the way, because just like many others, YouTube censored a lot of these documentaries that would expose the New World Order, what they want to do. And this is real evil. You guys don't understand. Some of you guys I know do, but many people don't. And for those that don't, that's why I'm doing this video. I think this is a very important topic, more important than all the other garbage that's going on with the Golden Globe Awards, all these award shows. This information is more important than all that other stuff. You do that entertainment TV stuff in your downtime. That's to keep you preoccupied, just like these social media sites, which are catered more to women, to brainwash people, to keep them to use subliminal messages, to sell your data, sell your information behind the scenes. That's why, you, of course, know Facebook had to settle lawsuits. That's why they changed their name to Meta. You can look it up. By the way, they're going through another lawsuit. What I hear, Google even settled a lawsuit. They, of course, mainstream media. Why, you got to ask the question? Why is MSNBC, CNN not talking about this? But I'm aware of this. I've read even some of the articles. By the way, this make mainstream media big headlines, and it doesn't. They suppress this on purpose because they want to, of course, obviously use these platforms to lure people in to this, world, virtual reality world that they refer to as the metaverse. Where you'll be in this dream-like state, but down the road, it's more sinister. I was listening to AJ from, that's obviously going through that lawsuit situation. They trumped up, by the way, I believe. I never saw the evidence on what they accused him of. By the way, I said this for a number of years. By the way, I had a relative that knew I was a listener or whatever, and I don't know if she would try to mention it to trigger me or whatever, but no, it's a bunch of BS. I told someone else that's not really, I saw this building up. I can take you back to Megyn Kelly. I have a good memory when they were building up for this for a number of years. And all of a sudden, I've never heard, and many lawyers you can talk to, I've never heard of a person being sued for $1 billion. By the way, there are limits. Even I knew the state of Michigan, I was telling a friend of mine, just like Texas has limits as far as what people could collect. I've seen this in the news for stuff that is even more egregious than what he so-called did or whatever. Stuff that's happened of people that's suing stuff like that. There's a cap. And it's just ridiculous. But I understand they really, this is about his lawyer said they want to shut him down. And I clearly understood that because that event that I attended with the Pastor Tony King seminars, I'm gonna tell you guys when I did those videos and I was discussing why I was gonna contemplate on why I was gonna go dark. That's what I was referring to. About I was being told by people who were relaying information back to me that had got close to him or whatever, because I don't really talk to him. He was hard to reach anyway. When I would try to call, he wouldn't answer his phone, and it was, I'm not saying he wouldn't on purpose, but it was so many people that it's kind of like hard, you know, when you're trying to reach out to people like that, that's at that level. And they were being told they wanted me to be private and this, that, and other. But I was upset he didn't keep his promise on us getting funded. And he said the black card, that was going to be a backup to that. And I have some evidence that the Federal Reserve, those accounts are still real. Even though everything got absorbed under the Treasury, I re-looked up some information. I just didn't have the time or get to this yet. But I already looked up the evidence. I did this like over a year ago, by the way. It's maybe a couple years now. But after that TDA movement broke out in 2017, which some of you all remember, and I'm just going over this to re-verify. You guys can look this up. But those who remember and who are aware, I went on, let's say I won't even say the name. I went on a particular payment process because there was like two main ones that you guys know that were people who reported success and then they said they got reversals. And one of them, people were pulling money down from. It was actually several of them. I won't say the name, but it wasn't Google Pay. Google was one of them too. I heard reports, a guy I met was telling me, but the other platform, I'm not saying, I still remember very vividly. I actually went on there and they had detached because it went too viral. They had removed the Federal Reserve Bank when they put out the statement saying, we don't deal with Federal Reserve banks anymore. And, you know, I said, oh, I could tell right before they shut it down. I said, oh, this is going too viral. They're getting ready to. And sure enough, like when I found out, it was the midsummer of 2017, and I caught on to it. And I was like, oh, man. But what it did, it caused an awakening of a massive group of people that say, hey, wait a minute. You know, I've been hearing about this. And a lot of people who are on the fence about this. Now, some people got spooked out of it or spooked away. I do get that and understand what happened. But I did do an update with one of these payment processors so I don't get off track. And they re-updated their platform when I tried to reattach an account. And it's something I tried to remind myself I was going to work on again. But that let me know they brought it back, but they hid it for a minute. And I had a private source not too long ago that said they'll do things, if something goes too viral, then they'll take it away. And I don't know where he got that from, but I discovered that on my own because I actually went on there and did a test. And I was like, oh, they brought it back. But it just didn't come up like the other regular banks do or whatever. Because I remember back then they shut it, they put it on lock after all these people were attempting it. But they brought it back, and that told me that that's still hidden, and they're playing this game. So, no, that's Federal Reserve application. That still is real. It's on the Federal Reserve's website. By the way, I would need a team to figure it out or somebody on the inside that's crossed all the way over. Yes, everything is absorbed under the Treasury. I was confirmed, but they've always been connected, just like the DTC. Even on the DTC's website, by the way, which they updated, and I'm speaking in terms back then, they're all interconnected, by the way. There's a connection like with the Treasury, the IRS, the Federal Reserve, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, and there's other corporations. They are heavily connected. There's even a part on the Federal Reserve's website that talks about Treasury management, and they even have a section that has Treasury routing numbers. So, no, they can play the shuffle game back and forth, but no, those accounts still exist, by the way. So don't believe the BS on what they could have done. I do know they're moving to a new system, and I do know the old system they call the legacy system. It's being phased out. However, they could have also, there's a tier system they have. They could have also frozen how some people operate in those particular manners. But there's a saying, the formulas may change, but the principle stays the same. Formulas may change, but the principle stays the same. So I went on that site and I looked up, and I actually saw they were still on there. By the way, you were able to link accounts and everything still with that entity. I'm just not saying that's over all the mom and pop banks, over all the local banks, and I've confirmed that. I've talked to numerous branch managers throughout the years, even credit unions, because even though credit unions they do things differently. They did tell me. I heard Michigan First many years ago. I called them on the phone, and they said yes, we are indeed members of the Federal Reserve banking system. They admitted that to me. That was over the phone. I didn't even have to ask them in person. But sometimes I would play dumb or play stupid and act like I didn't know. Like I told one teller, I brought in a competing bank. I brought in a Chase envelope, a Chase folder into Huntington. And I said, you all are part of under the Federal Reserve under the same umbrella. And she said, yeah. She's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. So it's like the jig is up. You know what I'm saying? They can play this thing like they're in competition like Burger King and McDonald's. But it's, still, you're still buying a hamburger at the end of the day. It may taste different, but this game is old. People are awake. So I'm just giving that example. Hold on for a second. Gotta open this. But once again, I didn't want to deviate too far off track. The topic of the meeting, this video deals with the Davos meeting, the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. They're planning our future, what they have planned for us, something like that. It's in the topic, and I wanted to discuss. So Gretchen Whitmer, governor, I heard she's been invited. You can look up. I've already looked this up to show you guys how astute I am. I do read articles from time to time. I see the news listings. I've been using Microsoft's search engine Bing lately, which I used to use Yahoo a lot. My mother, who studied communications at Cleveland State, informed me some years ago that she said whenever you read those articles from Yahoo, all of that is running through the Associated Press. So I guess that a lot of that's going through the Associated Press. So I stay abreast of the information. So I didn't even see that reported on yet. And they even, some of these news agencies, people that watch my channel, I can tell are connected to even some of the local news in their areas and might get out and it might get reported because my friend said he's going to mention to his wife. But they will try to run a story to give you guys a heads up if they haven't ran the story already. Well, they're going to try to brag about it and say, see, like this person is doing good for humanity or representing our state. But I'm going to tell you the real reason they invited her is they're trying to recruit her to run for president. And they've decided future presidents in the past, like when before Obama and Hillary were in a contentious race in the primaries, I was informed that the Rockefellers and Rothschilds were at a meeting, at a Bilderberg meeting, and they had decided that Obama was going to be their front runner, who did eventually catch up to Hillary in the primaries in 2008 between the delegates and super delegates, and eventually surpassed her. By the way, but I heard they decided. So these type of meetings, they decide future leaders, future presidents, not only presidents but mayors, governors, etc. They have to start ahead of time. But they also are planning a devious future. But don't let the smooth taste fool you. They are planning a insidious future. They brought in the kill shot because they want to kill people. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I can't say the other things because YouTube won't allow me, to talk about. But you guys know what I'm referring to. You can read between the lines. What the death shot is, you can look on national TV and see sports athletes falling out. I already showed the footages privately, sent emails to people who I knew were awake. If you guys want stuff like that, just let me know. If it's not anything related to consultation, anything. If you want to be included in a mass email or be informed, I will send you things like that from time to time. And I don't spam people either. I tell a friend of mine, nowadays people send you a bunch of stuff on Instagram. That's why I said earlier, I don't really check Messenger that much because you just get flooded. I've seen a lot of the articles before. One of my relatives sent me a lot of stuff. I had my laptop. I was been on the internet since like 07, 08. So a lot of those old videos, recycling. I had to tell her I saw a lot of that stuff already. I was ahead of the game. It was due to my friend that had a background in IT. He's very knowledgeable. Big shout out to, won't say his name. of course, to protect his identity. But I've been ahead of the game in that regard. Some of you guys I laugh at are actually late. You think because you got better phones and stuff like that. But back then, I seen a lot of those videos that went viral and stuff that recirculated. Now it's a whole nother leapfrog in technology where I've seen, you, of course, obviously new content creators, influencers on YouTube that they're promoting. They're not shadow banning like this channel, like my channel has been. And I mentioned to you all, you go to my Twitter account, when back around October, I had shared a post where I was showing support for Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, but I had mentioned other people who had been targeted in the past by the very same power structure that was speaking out against, and that has spoken out against the Jews. Like our sister Lauryn Hill was one of them, Whoopi Goldberg, recently, so many, Isaiah Washington, who now follows me, the actor from Grey's Anatomy. Big shout out to for his stance that he took on that agenda that's being pushed. I won't even say the name. It's not even worth mentioning. Most people can read between the lines. I don't try to control, let me say this, or micromanage what anybody does. I just don't like the fact, just don't force it on me, you know. And that group is also, they claim that everybody should be about love. But what I find hypocritical is they don't preach tolerance, and they're actually intolerant, and they also are not inclusive. They preach so-called inclusivity and tolerance, but they don't practice tolerance themselves. They're very, just like Antifa and these communist groups. This is why I support the Proud Boys, who are actually protecting people from these anarchist groups that have a tendency to lean or side more to the left, even though many of them are not registered voters or don't vote like myself, by the way, which I find hypocritical. But the Proud Boys gets attacked more so worse. But the Antifa is known for brutally hurting people, and it's been well documented. It has also even was declared a terrorist organization even before so-called Proud Boys were. By the way, my argument with that, to sum it up, and this is facts, what I mentioned. I've got all the evidence. There's data backed. By the way, this is well-known information. Just because I don't show you guys the statistics, you guys can look up the information. But this has been well documented by independent media, journalists. Many of them, I would say, not always do they lean more so to the right. There's people that are in between that used to be on the left. Like I used to be a Democrat, by the way. I donated $10 to Barack Obama's campaign back in 2008. Even though I didn't vote for him, a friend of mine called me a hypocrite because he worked Obama's campaign, by the way. One of my longtime best friends. I won't say his name either, by the way, but he called me back and he's like, why do a lot of my relatives and my friends, because we got into right the night before the election, I told him Obama's going to win. And he said, why a lot of my cousins, and he told me his family members and some of his friends feel the same way. But what I had to think about is, why don't y'all give that same type of smoke, same type of energy to the Jehovah's Witnesses who don't vote? Yeah, the Watchtower Society and the Amish don't vote, and this other group called the Quakers and Shakers, I looked up, by the way, and others out there, and try to, all this other hypocrisy and these trigger words you come up with. It's just lame, and what's the term I'm looking for? It's lame, it's dull, and it's corny, by the way. You need to come up with something else, by the way. But that's why I'm just saying, and my rebuttal to that is, why don't these other groups get the same type of smoke? When I say I'm not a registered voter, but you can still support a politician monetarily. That's what a lot of the rich, the wealthy do. You know what I'm saying? There's other ways to support if you do get into politics, by the way, and you don't have to be. There's this thing in the black community. I'm glad that Chance the Rapper at least spoke out at the time when he was trying to defend Kanye, and he did let Trump know to not construe it the wrong way when Trump acknowledged it on Twitter. But he was saying, black people, you don't have to be Democrat. You can vote independent. There's different types of political parties. Stop being boxed in. That's the problem why people can't become free. And you know what I'm saying? I hate to rant sometimes, but you can be, there's moderate conservatives, there's libertarians. So I tell a friend of mine, I don't know what I would be. I looked up the libertarian ideology. I like what their belief system is, but I said, I've had people try to put labels on me. One former, what do you call it, alumni from college or whatever, called me, he asked me, was I a flat earther? And I said, I don't even know what they believe, what their belief system is. I know a little bit about them. They use them to basically create division in the awakening community. By the way, I like the fact that they're awake to the truth. The positives I like about the flat earthers, but I know they're used as a tool. But I don't even know. I've had people even acknowledge it to me. I don't even know what the basis of their ideology is. So please don't accuse me of something that you don't know about or think you know, because I'm very well studied in my regard. There's things I do know about, but I said no, I'm not a flat earther. I'm just someone I've researched, very well researched, level of a scholar, done independent research. If you call it freelance, just like you have freelance reporting, freelance writing, but I investigate different topics. And I was asked, just like Steve Coakley was many years ago when he used to work for the mayor's office in Chicago, and he was asked to investigate the Boule, why these black academics who received top honors were not graduating from Howard University in D.C. And he come to find out, he learned about this Boule Society, and the reason about when you guys hear me talk about the fraternities, sororities, and the secret societies. And that's what that links up to. And Leo Zagami, by the way, that's public information. Now, unlike the rules of years ago, where he has done videos on band.video. Just type in Leo Zagami, by the way, and he gives an inside look as far as the more powerful lodges that actually do things. I had a friend of mine that told me Masons I met, where their lodges are not really active, or they don't even do as much stuff, but the lodges, Leo Zagami's based out in Europe, and he gives an inside look and talked about he was related to the royal family. He's a whistleblower. So you even have elites that have come out and spoken against the New World Order, exposed it, by the way. But go to band.video if you type in Leo Zagami. Type in Leo Zagami at band.video, and he's giving excellent information. And he's even brought up, I understood this when he was talking to Owen Schroyer. Owen Schroyer didn't understand this. He's down in Texas, one of Alex's reporters. I know he got that cowboy in him, and you don't understand certain things. When he was interviewing Leo, he said, "Oh, Leo, don't tell me you're related to the royal family." And it's like, you got to understand, I've known about Leo Zagami for a long time. Leo was a member of the P2 Lodge, powerful lodge over in England, exposed a lot. So these Masons think they have secrets and stuff. I may know more than some of the ones over here, and I'm not even officially pledged. I didn't even go through official initiation. And I know more. I've even had Masons even tell me that. So I'm just saying, just to put it out there or whatever, there's a lot of information that's online you can research that's not hidden, not secret. And I'm not one of those people that thinks that just because every time somebody dies that was a sacrifice, a ritual. I'm not one of those. I evaluate every situation. Like, for example, when Kobe Bryant died, I think that was a real mishap by his helicopter pilot. I never thought. I had a friend that said some people put out on Facebook that they killed him. I never said that, by the way. And what's similar is what they accused AJ of with the Sandy Hook thing. Similar, I think they take things that people don't say, they cut up certain videos and they blew it out of proportion. But I believe the official story that was negligence it wasn't on purpose, but the pilot's part and the helicopter crash. I even found Kobe Bryant. I was hurt by it. I cried. By the way, his autopsy photos. By the way, to show you guys, I dig deep when I do investigation. I research, and it was difficult. I won't say where, but it took me a while because a lot of people were intrigued by the footage. Some people said they saw it. I don't have access to the deep web. I heard about it. The dark web is actually what it's called. The deep web is actually technically something different I found out about, by the way. But I heard allegedly pictures and stuff on there, and I was just curious one day, and I wanted to research and get to the bottom and just really find out what happened. And I do believe that was negligence. I don't believe that was done on purpose or ritual. And that's just me. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But because I heard DJ Academics mention on Vlad TV, you got these conspiracy people, and what they try to do is try to lump the people who don't do proper research, or just like the people who tie up the court systems and stuff. They try to lump everyone all in the same category, and that's not. I had to cut a former coworker. I had to put him in his place. He tried to accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist. I had to say no, I'm not. There's actually things that have actually happened, so-called conspiracies. Because theory is something that's theoretical. It hasn't been proven. But I'll cover things that have actually been a proven fact, that there's news articles of things that have validated when something has happened. By the way, you understand? So we live in a society today, and Currency 365 did a real good video I listened to recently and kind of talked about this, how something can happen right on video camera, and nowadays they will try to deny it or say this, that, and the other, and that's coming from the left, by the way. But you guys, the reason I'm going over that, and I didn't want to get too far off topic from the Davos meeting I was discussing, I want you guys to clearly understand and use critical thinking and brainstorming. And I want to let you guys know they use this to try to steer you away from listening to people like myself who are open-minded, who are astute, who are brilliant people, and try to push off all that other foolishness. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy yourself, but just understand those TV shows, entertainment, that's stuff that you do in your downtime. This information is more important than that. This is about the elites. They want to kill us. They use that kill shot. And I was going over earlier how I saw a compilation footage from Band.video, and they care to get the word out to people. They interview actual doctors, medical professionals, and they, unlike the mainstream media, they even cover how some of the mainstream media, even on YouTube, used fake doctors, people who aren't real, to push that agenda for, what they wanted you to get. And they were trying to make it mandatory, by the way. They pushed that. And mighty funny, they were pointing out the hypocrisy, how they were calling for that football player's privacy that passed out. But they were the ones who wanted to cover up, who used to actually say you're not supposed to reveal a person's, medical status, but it contradicts the fact that they want you to be open with your vaccination status with the passport thing. So they were pointing that hypocrisy out, the way and I said, yeah, I have to think really in depth sometimes how the mainstream media plays these games, liberal controlled media, by the way, and you guys got to stay hip to that. You guys got to understand, I'm not your enemy, by the way. I had a friend of mine told me this years ago. I'm not with the people that's trying to poison your water, that puts fluoride or lithium in the water supply. I'm not the people who were, cause of some of these manufactured power outages. I did hear about those things of that sort that the independent media covers. I'm trying to warn you guys that this is another topic that is very, very important. And you need to get this, you need to spread the word to as many people as possible. These ruling class elite do not have our best interests at heart. They pretend to be the good guys, the good men and women of the world, and benevolent. But trust me, they are far from it. These are not benevolent people at all. These people mean harm. And it's a collective body, and this should not be based upon party lines or Democrat or Republican thing. This is something that should bring people together, because there are issues that I think both sides can agree on, that we can support. That if you care about we the people, because the politicians are supposed to serve us, they're supposed to work for us. It's turned nowadays where they act like they're supposed to do things. No, if you read the Constitution and you go back to the roots of our infrastructure of our laws, they're supposed to serve us. They work for us. They're public servants. Understand this. It's not the other way around, where now it's become all of a sudden where these people are acting as local dictators and stuff. That's not how politics or the law was supposed to work, or the democracy, as they call it, or republic. We are a republic, which stands one nation under God. It was not supposed to be where we're in an autocracy or dictatorship. That is not the foundation. And that's what's happened with other countries, and why you have to ask the question, why are migrants and foreigners, people fleeing to come over here to escape? And that's why some of them are awake to the truth, because they were escaping communism or torture in their respective places they were from. You have to ask that question, by the way. So I want to give you guys a clear understanding. If you like the video, you like the content, don't forget to thumbs up the video, so support the channel, share the channel, subscribe if you like to receive updates, hit the notification bell. You're watching Dorsey's Resource. I'm your host, doing business as, that legal fiction, John Dorsey, to be a little bit more specific, by the way. So support the channel, like the video, by the way, and don't forget to share this content. You know, warn your loved ones, your family members. This is important. The Davos meetings are going on and set to take place January 16th through about the 20th. I found out our local governor, Gretchen Whitmore, has been invited, and they're, I believe, well, I already know pretty much. I can see the lead up to this because they were asking her about this when I saw locally, because I do keep up with local information. They were asking her whether she was going to run for president, even though she said no for 2024. But I've known from years past that can actually change, by the way. So that's one of their agendas. They recruit and decide future leaders, future people, politicians from around the world on a global scale. They invite CEOs of major corporations, IT, information technology professionals, people in different regards, industries, agriculture, the medical industry, etc. You name it. I found out George Soros' son, Alexander Soros, is on the list. He's over there. The guy from BlackRock. I remember Lester Holt from MSNBC, who's liberal, did a story on BlackRock, by the way, causing harm as a private investment company, causing rents to go up across the country. So if you know anybody that has suffered from rents and stuff prices going up astronomically, you can thank your boy Klaus Schwab with the World Economic Forum and Yuval Noah Harari, his advisor to Klaus Schwab, who thinks he's a god, by the way. He really believes that from what I've heard. By the way, it's been put out there, allegedly, I should say, but you can look up what they believe. And he says, Yuval Noah Harari also, quote, says, we don't need humans anymore. That's what's quoted by him. He says, we have artificial intelligence, but they try to sell this to people that interview them as though this is something that's cool, hip. We need to put a chip inside of you, which is going to track you everywhere you go in your most intimate moments. When you have sex, you use the bathroom, they'll be able to. They have the technology already. I heard certain police departments across the country will have access to where they can see through walls. Now they have devices and stuff. And even though they'll say they only use those for SWAT raids and stuff, I do understand there's local politicians that say they're concerned about the facial recognition technology, which Facebook helps, because they're part of it too, you know, and that's why I already kind of covered the Googles, the Facebooks of the world. Eric Schmidt, who one of the founders of Google, allegedly, I was informed, him and Bill Gates set up the social credit system in China that is integrated with your credit score, by the way, where if you do things they don't like, say, for example, you speak against the government, you eat foods, they can track your purchases at the store. You know, that's what they want to use through the apps, through your phone, through the chips and stuff, with your vaccine passport, will punish you. Or what you search online. One of the things I was informed for sure, they will punish you if you get caught playing video games too much, if you get caught smoking on the subway over there. That's one of the things that will hurt your social credit score, which is integrated with your regular credit score. This is the system that they wanted to implement, and they wanted to start off with it over here a few years ago. We had Sundar Pichai, one of the other CEOs over Google, lied before our Congress. When he testified, he committed perjury. It's a very serious offense, but got away with it because of, that's why I call these big tech companies big tech bullies, big tech giants, because they abused their power and blatantly lied because they got exposed. One of their engineers, a whistleblower, Zach Voorhees, last name Vorhees, Zach Voorhees, you can look him up, a whistleblower, used to be an engineer for Google, exposed how, and he said other engineers, they wanted to implement over here in the United States something called Dragonfly, which is a search engine that will report your searches in real time and tell them, it would report back, you know, to the cabal people, and they would use it for evil, sinister purposes. You see how this works? See how I'm breaking this down, guys? You understand? I'm going to read the chat section when I get a chance. I haven't looked at the chat yet in case you're wondering, but let me know if you guys still listen to me in real time right now, what your thoughts are on that. You know, is that startling? Is that concerning to you? Well, Zach Voorhees, they swatted him, by the way, sent the helicopter things. He told his story on X22 Report. Check maybe you can find those videos on BitChute, maybe Rumble, since YouTube removed a lot of stuff, because YouTube wants to keep you in the Disneyland programmed and brainwashed, and La La Land. They don't want you having other layers to yourself. They want that's so they have their brave new world. They want people to be indoctrinated, brainwashed. That's why I encourage you guys, share this video. Please warn your loved ones, your children, your family members. This is very serious. These people are evil. And that was just one part of the agenda with the kill shot. That's not the only agenda. I have something more sinister. A friend of mine that called me earlier, I spoke to earlier today, a real good friend of mine whose name I won't say, and he's brilliant. I say he's the equivalent of a 5-star historian. I say, hey man, I'm not trying to blow no smoke up. You know what? I'm not trying to stroke your ego, but you are really, really brilliant. And I said, if I had your mind, I would be even more amazing than I am now. Because that's one thing, I'll give credit to where credit is due. I'm not one of these people that's out here jealous of people. I try to empower people, and that's what I'm doing. Is empowering you guys. You all out there have all the power. I'm simply a messenger. I'm just sharing this information that's been relayed to me. So this is also a warning. I'm not trying to spook you. I've had people accuse me of trying to spook people. I'm not trying to spook you or trying to scare you. This is not fear porn or fear mongering. This is where we need to be equipped, because it says this is scripture in the Bible that talks about we need to put on the whole armor of God. That we are equipped, that we walk by faith but not by sight. That if you have faith the size of a grain of a mustard seed, our Savior said he can move mountains for you. For greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And also remember, do not conform to the ways of this world, but be ye what? Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. You see, whether you believe in the scriptures, believe in the Bible or not, these allegories, the Bible, there's a lot of true philosophy that you can apply that is valid, that can equip us and give us the faith, because he gave us the power that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thy rod, thy staff, thou comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. So put on the whole armor of God, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. So we're not to live in fear, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. He is not what? He has not given us, see, the elites, because fear, I was taught, was false emotions appearing real. I know other people say it a different type of way, but fear is nothing but false emotions appearing real. That's what my sensei, my mentor, taught me. Fear is false emotions appearing real. So we're not, as it says in the Bible, he has not given us a spirit of fear, but of what? But of power, love, and a sound mind. You see. So we've been equipped. The word, the Bible is also our sword. The word. So I'm fundamentally, I was a church boy. I grew up a preacher kid. So I know, and I'm very well studied. My mother taught me about the New World Order. So, I tell people, that's why I know a lot. I can relate to Bo Pony out there. A lot of what he covers. Love listening to Bo. Is amazing. Analyst of time. Remember Stan Johnson of the Bible Prophecy Club. Big shout out to, it's been some years. I remember going to some of those meetings. I remember going to a New World Order conference, knowing about this since I was in high school. Back in October of 1996, former FBI agent Terry Cook autographed the book that my mother purchased at the time when she took me and my younger brother. They were having it in Allen Lincoln Park, Michigan. I remember there was a lot of people that, of course, they didn't look like us. We were like one of the only few black people there, but there was a lot of militiamen and people there. They looked happy I was bringing my book, Divine Revelation of Hell, that I've read by Mary Kay Baxter, by the way, and absorbing the information, very powerful information about the New World Order, what they were planning, and they were right way back then. I ended up giving that book away to a spiritual family I met back in 2003 when I woke up, learned about my true history, African consciousness, by the way, through the Shrine of the Black people who were connected to the Shrine of the Black Madonna, the conscious community, by the way, and I learned about sovereignty at the same year. So I was double red pill, by the way, or triple red pill. I was blown away because I was already aware, but I know about the Antichrist. By the way, my mom, like, once again, I know she may be embarrassed or whatever, but I've said this before. That's what I learned about this from. That's why I understand, she leans more or supports the left. The left, I see the leftist agenda is coming through, the New World Order. I didn't even know in InfoWars, Alex Jones played a clip of former President Reagan when he mentioned that what with liberalism, the New World Order, or what did he say? The exact quote was communism or socialism would come through liberalism. So he was right on point. Ronald Reagan prophesied that years ago. When I saw InfoWars used to play that clip, that liberalism, that communism, socialism will come through liberalism. And I see it right before our eyes. That's the main political party that, even though they've captured both parties, by the way, because we know about the neocons and the rhinos, Republican in name only, the Mitch McConnells, cocaine Mitch, a friend of mine was telling me about, and he's a conservative, was telling me about Mitch's wife being Chinese and his connections to cocaine, running like Operation Fast and Furious, just like Obama and Bush. You know, Obama claims he had a squeaky free presidency, and me and a friend of mine debated about that. We both disagreed that Obama had a squeaky free, scandal free presidency. I think I remember not only Operation Fast and Furious, the Dr. Ben Carson scandal, where after Dr. Ben Carson spoke at the prayer breakfast, he said he was contacted by the White House. His foundations, his 501c3s were targeted by President Obama, and they said the White House called him and said they didn't like his comments about the so-called Affordable Care Act. That's the Obamacare. So Obama went after Dr. Ben Carson, targeted him, which you're not supposed to do. Use your political power. Obama pretends to be a good guy. He set up a weaponization of, social media, I'm finding out, before he left office. Remember, he put in the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. He's responsible, him and Biden, Creepy Joe, Biden, Joseph Brandon. This is things that are facts. What other scandals he had? The murder of Justice Antonin Scalia. By the way, Obama claims he had a squeaky free presidency. I forgot about that. Came to me later. What happened to Scalia? Very interesting. Remember, he tried to bring in Gorsuch guy. That's now Biden's so-called. So we know who had to stay behind that work. We know who's behind running stuff behind the scenes, who pretends to be the good guy, but he's really not who he portrays himself to be. But he's trying to change and shuck and jive, and he supports reparations now for the black community, which African Diaspora Channel pointed out. Democrats don't support reparations, and they pretend to shuck and jive to get votes and stuff. And he's trying to go, but make sure you blacks out there put pressure, continue to put pressure on the Democrats to force them to do things so the Republicans, just like you guys, I know some of you guys get triggered, claim they were trying to get credit for. And remember, Van Jones made a statement, used to work for CNN, said it's making us look bad that Trump is doing all these things for black people. Remember that? Even though Van Jones cried when Biden allegedly stole his way back into office, and Van Jones was in the tears. But we know what Van Jones admitted. By the way, Van, in case you're listening, or some of you guys out there that know who he is, to show you how well studied I am with these political analysts and commentators that y'all get y'all news from. Y'all newsy news, y'all mainstream brainwashing propaganda media. And that's why I'm here to wake you all up to the truth, the real accurate truth, and give you accurate information. By the way, that's unfiltered. I'm not getting the funding. I should be getting the money that Soros has, because I would use it to pay people to wake up to the truth. I would pay you guys to wake up. I wouldn't, be stingy with the money. But another scandal, Obama, you had with him and Hillary, Secretary of State, you had Benghazi, Operation Fast and Furious. You had the scandal with, what's his name, Muammar Gaddafi. Remember, Farrakhan pleaded with Obama, please don't mess with Gaddafi. I reminded a friend of mine that, so I can hit you from both sides. From the conscious movement to the patriot movement, I'm connected to both sides. I can hit you. So no, Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Hussein Obama, is a fake one. It's been the pretending to be a real one out there. He's not a real one. A lot of black people say, oh, you afraid, or you throwing people under the bus. Bullshit. You guys need to, a lot of you simps, Captain Saber hoes, and pussies out there, women calling yourselves Harriet Tubmans and Moseses. Cut that shit out. You're not a real Harriet Tubman. It's only a few handful of black women I can name that are true Harriet Tubmans out there that's really on the front lines, fighting the New World Order, waking people up to the fucking truth. Now, sorry I have to get gut on you guys like Yusuf does sometimes, but it's only a few. And I have to be real because the system really goes out of its way to put y'all on a pedestal and really pamper y'all with bubble gum and flowers and milk and honey. But see, I'm from the school of hard knock life. You see, I didn't have it the way a lot of y'all had it. You know what I'm saying? But man, that's why I rant sometimes. I mean, sometimes I have to get it in like Yusuf does. By the way, when I talk about the politics, by the way. But one sister who I admire, in case you're wondering out there, I'm trying to think of her name. I follow her on Instagram, by the way, and she has a YouTube channel as well. She's a music artist and is very well balanced, puts out and articulates herself very well. I would say even better than myself. I'm highly impressed. I'm trying to think. I can't even. It's funny. I'm gonna have to try to see if I can pull her name up. Okay, it looks like I'm back in. I went out for a minute, so I apologize for that. Her name was Erica Lachey. I had to look up. I guess when I had closed the window out, it may have taken my sound out. If you guys can still hear me, but I really highly admire this sister. She's very awake to the truth. I'm trying to think of some other ones I can give a shout out to. She goes by the name Erica Lachey. She's also a music artist. She's awake to the truth, puts out very balanced, excellent commentary. Because I was going over how there's a lot of black women in the black community that call themselves queens and say they fight or they're on the front lines, but they're really not. But I can identify people that really risk their lives and put themselves on the front lines, and she's one of them. So big shout out to her, by the way. But finishing covering this video, the topic dealing with the Davos meetings were going on in Switzerland. They want to, part of their agenda is to bring in the one world government. They want to usher in a cashless society. Eventually, they want an implantable microchip. This is real. This is part of their agenda. And they want to integrate something called a social credit system, which some say is actually already here, by the way, that would be connected to your regular credit score, by the way. It's called your social, under the social credit system, by the way. So they want to do that. So I'm just warning you guys that these meetings are going on. Larry Fent from BlackRock, what's his name, is supposed to be an attendee. That's the guy, if you know people that are responsible for evictions and stuff, because MSNBC, NBC did a special on these private equity firms buying many properties that are raising rent costs, and this is being done intentionally, being weaponized, by the way, that's hurting small guy, poor and middle class. So BlackRock is there. They've got several representatives because the list of attendees got leaked out, allegedly. The whistleblower list of attendees that attended, by the way. So now I'm going to read the comments before I shut things down because I have to get back as, unfortunately, the video went out for a while. Lynn Hopper says, "Hey Dorsey." Mary Sanders says, "Shalom, Mr. Dorsey." Shalom, greetings to you, Lynn. Darren Jackson says, "You the man." Thumbs up 100. Appreciate you. Star Sources says it sure did. Moon Peak says thumbs up. Madure Training and Natural Sciences said communalism, community, land trust, and credit unions. Okay. May have been going in on what I was mentioning earlier. Maybe an idea for having a community. Says, when are they going to flip the switch, Dorsey? Soren Kimmich. I have actually no idea. They've been dragging their feet. Your question is as good as mine. I would say, I wanted to say this year, but we've gone through that so many times where they promised that it was going to happen. But I think there's a deeper agenda I'm not really going into detail about, because I warned you guys, even in my previous video, there's cabal, they're gatekeepers, they're minions. They watch my videos, and there's people that pretend to be that they have my best interest at heart, and they don't. So certain things I don't talk about or go as in depth, but it's in the works. And just know the cabal they're trying to sabotage things. They're still at the root, the cause of holding this up. I just wish I knew, because I remember I used to listen to TNT Tony that used to do a lot of the dinar calls. I don't know if he still does. There's people that I'm assuming may have even gone private already, exchanged, because that had been going on for so many years. I even still listen from time to time to Bruce's call. And I understand some people out there don't agree with Bruce, but I connect the pieces. I think there's truth in a lot of things people say. I also listen to Nick Fleming. By the way, I forgot to look up his latest on his YouTube channel. By the way, like some of the information he puts out. So I think it definitely has to do, and one of my subscribers told me, she confirmed that Hillary has something to do as well. Not only Obama was stalling the RV, because these people are evil. They don't want us to have wealth. And think about what makes me so mad, upset, as Obama went into office. I remember when they mentioned on national TV, his net worth was around 4 or 5 million. Because remember, he wanted to keep the BlackBerry phone. They were telling him he couldn't have it. Then what they eventually did is they got him a secure version or whatever. They ended up allowing him to have it. Remember, that was in the news. I have a good memory back then. I can remember at that time, back in 2008, this was in the news. If you guys can still remember back then, remember they didn't want to let Obama have his BlackBerry. Then they ended up letting him have it, and they would go over with like the books and stuff between him and Hillary, what their net worth was at the time. His daughters, remember, they were younger at the time. Yeah, I'm just covering this. They want you to forget. But now the guy is worth a billionaire. At least the difference with Trump, I point out, and it's like you guys, I know, trying to say, oh, you sucking Trump, so you on Trump's jock. No, it's not about that. It's about, I look at the policies, and I look at what I know the history behind the Democratic Party and the black community too. And I'm gonna touch on that later if I don't forget. I've touched on that before, but Democrats and Obama in particular is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's now worth $1 billion, but at least Trump got his billions from hotels, real estate, and other businesses. He made his goddamn money before he got into office. He even donated up front before he took office his goddamn $200,000, whatever it is, presidential salary. So you guys are just, you're so twisted with your information from some of you are. I mean, not accuse everybody, but I know some of you are so-called liberals that follow me. I have to go in on these fake-ass liberals that claim to be inclusive and tolerant and for the small guy, for the poor. And some of you guys are trying to be a Rothschild, a leader of Rockefellers yourself. Fucking damn hypocrites. Well, some of you guys, I don't get mad. You guys get what you get. It's going to come right back on your ass, just like with Biden with these declassified documents. Anybody that would be investigated by the IRS from that attorney general in New York, who would survive that level of scrutiny? A friend of mine asked me. I said, I asked the question. Because before, why after all these years, Trump, the thing that stood out, he said, that mentioned to me, he was not investigated. He was squeaky clean. It wasn't until he ran for president. And all of a sudden, he's the bad guy. But all these people, these rappers, these entertainers will get loans. You got photos you can pull up with lovey-dovey, good friends with them, from Oprah Winfrey to Jay-Z to Sean Puffy Combs, got multiple photos with them. The only one that came back and showed to support, and I know he's a real one, is Kanye West that I know of. But all the other ones turned their back, called him racist, all this, that, and I'm not saying that he doesn't have, I mean, his personality. There may be things, okay, that doesn't coincide. I can get, you know, be real at the end of the day. He could be a peanut at times. He could be an asshole. There's things I don't agree with. Like I didn't agree with his stance on that you know, kill shot. For example, I went over earlier. I didn't agree with him on that. But I look at overall his policies. The gas prices were down low before this dum-dum took office. This idiot that stole his way in. The economy before COVID, before they brought in the so-called scandemic, unemployment was down. It was going good. But I noticed I was seeing panic literally after Creepy Joe, this dude, took office about the gas prices tremendously. So just because they've gone down in more recent times, by the way, don't let the smooth taste fool you. The gas prices were still less than what they are now. And the Lyft drivers were making more money. I have a friend that drives people doing gig work. They've even been affected because these people, it's tied in. These evil scumbags don't want you to have wealth, but a lot of this comes from Democrats pretending to be for the poor, for the average man. But a lot of these politicians are sleeper cells. And the Democratic Party are some of the biggest panderers, even though they would accuse Trump and the Republicans of being panderers. They're some of the biggest panderers themselves. But here's the history behind the Democratic Party once again. You don't know this. Democratic Party created the black codes, the Jim Crow laws. You can look this up. That was the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was responsible for burning down Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was comprised, it was a nickname for black businesses. They had to rebuild after that incident because the Ku Klux Klan at the time, which the founders of the Democratic Party, I was informed, they were heavily connected to the KKK. In case you're not aware, this is true history. In case you don't know, I found out even under Obama's administration. These are not my words. I researched this, guys. So follow me now. For you liberals, if you're still watching, you're going to get some true education. You know, I don't claim to be a 5-star historian, but I'm very well studied in my own regard. And I'll give props to people that point out things I don't know about. I'll admit. But this is one thing I did find out about. The Democratic Party under Obama covered up the DNC. I didn't even know had historical records that a grand wizard from the Ku Klux Party had spoken at one of the early Democratic National Conventions. They were founders of the Democratic Party. Founders were members of the Ku Klux Klan. And in the 1920s, when they burned Tulsa, Oklahoma down, that's when the Ku Klux Klan had their chapters were at their highest peak at that time. And they came from other states because it was misinformation. Some black guy tripped over a white girl back then on the elevator. So it blew out of proportion. And the newspaper had something to do with it. Remember Malcolm X, rest in peace, Malik El Shabazz, talked about not trusting the media. And he pointed out liberals back then. A lot of stuff Malcolm X said today is prophetic in terms of what he said about white liberals. You look at those that are students of Malcolm X and know about his philosophy, because there's people that quote Malcolm X, but they don't quote what Malcolm X stood for or what he mentioned. He said this about white liberals. Said they were worse than, because I found out him and Martin Luther King, they were registered Republicans. And back then, understand, it was like a lesser of two evils. They had to choose. They felt the better option because they knew the history of the Democratic Party. Martin Luther King was working with John F. Kennedy, who was a Democrat similar to Trump. John F. Kennedy was not a traditional Democrat. He was an outsider. Mainly him and his brother Robert. It's mainly him and Robert. This is not Ted. Ted was like a neocon, a deep state. But Robert and John were real ones. Understand this. And he gained a sense of himself. You know the real story about John F. Kennedy and Robert visited the poor people because poverty was an issue at the time. And Martin Luther King, before he died, started something called the Poor People's Project. And remember, he had quoted, "I'm afraid I'm leading my people into a burning house," because he didn't understand fully their agenda. Remember, he was also a member of the Boule, but he had to, do that, be part of those organizations to get things, I understand, to be up in those spaces. But he actually went against the establishment because a lot of liberals say in today's society, they say, well, if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would be a liberal like us. No, or progressive. You don't know that for sure Because the question you would have to ask is, what version of Martin Luther King would you have? I saw the actual video footage before he passed away, well, actually before he was murdered, by the way, before he was killed. He said, he talked about not carrying as far as what he understood. It was bigger than this when he gave one of his last speeches at church my great-grandfather helped construct down in Memphis, Tennessee at Mason Temple. My great-grandfather, R.F. Riley Williams, was the building commissioner of Mason Temple. By the way, I found out Martin Luther King gave his last speech before he was assassinated. And he said, he talked about, and there was other footage, and remember he started being referred to as the N-word preacher by Lyndon Baines Johnson, who, as soon as he took office after Kennedy John Jr. was assassinated, his first order of business was to rescind Executive Order 111100, which proves that he was a member, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a member of the deep state. And remember when he passed the civil rights legislation, said I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. But Martin Luther King was working to get the best that he could on behalf of black people. And then I found out from my relative, my mother said the Black Panthers felt at the time, I didn't know this originally, she told me this years later, they felt Martin Luther King wasn't moving fast enough, which I understood. So they had food programs and stuff set up to try to help members of the black community who were suffering, because poverty was a big issue back then. Because remember, they didn't allow us after slavery. They did a lot of things. We weren't allowed, only skilled tradespeople. That's why it's controlled to this day, why a lot of Masons and traveling men in the black community are a few that have the trade skills. They took a lot of the trade programs out to high schools and stuff. You know, this was done on purpose to dumb us down. So black men, the alpha males, the leaders of your community, if you wonder, because I had some women ask, why don't a lot of black men have the skills like electrical skills, plumbing skills, or they need more handyman or mechanics? Just because that was only allowed after slavery. They did most of the jobs you were required to as a slave, but during the period of Reconstruction, which got sabotaged because they redistributed the land to the South. This is why I do support reparations, because historically, and this is not critical race theory, but historically, the black Union soldiers that defeated the South in the Civil War were promised 40 acres and a mule, which I found out that was the early translation of slavery with reparations, which we never received. They never repaired the damage. That's why there's a poverty issue. So this proves that we black men were on the front lines and have more of an argument than even our own women, as far as we're exposed to most of society when we have to work these grunt jobs we have been on the front lines. And I was even given intel by a friend of mine, a close friend who went through a similar experience that I went through. He lived with the family when he moved from Maryland to Southfield, Michigan, lived with a pastor and his wife, and Mrs. Burden, he told me at the time, told him she had a Baptist, I think, or Pentecostal background, just like my parents, and her husband, Mr. Burden, was Baptist. And she told my friend, who was also a historian, just like Pastor Burden was, that women from the church back then, this is inside information, came to Martin Luther King, approached him about putting himself on the front lines, being a leader or figurehead of the civil rights movement. Being one of he mentioned, this was admitted by a black woman, Mrs. Burden. He told me the story privately. She admitted this to show you we don't get enough credit for it. It was mostly men that led the slave revolts, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey. But see, we were made to be subservient when they deindustrialized society. They drafted a lot of black men in the Vietnam War, which when Martin Luther King spoke against, they started calling him the Lyndon Baines Johnson. Right after Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize, they started referring to him as the nigger preacher. The Rockefeller and Ford Foundation funded the feminist movement, funded women's liberation, Gloria Steinem, who was sitting right next to Hillary Clinton the night she lost to Donald J. Trump. I said, where have I recognized this white woman before? And I looked her up because I have a partial photographic memory. I said, that's Gloria Steinem. I said, oh my God, that's the leader of the feminists. So had Hillary won, who that's how I found out that's who the elites wanted. Because see, they didn't have control. Their full AI, artificial intelligence, wasn't in place yet. They hadn't fully weaponized the tech giants yet. You see, even though Obama installed his stay behind network as a safety net to sabotage Trump's presidency. This is facts I'm mentioning. Hardcore information. A lot of people are scared to talk about this because you know, they're scared because we know what happens to people when they go over information. I'm not saying I will, but, you know, I will fight, you know, do my damnedest. But that's why I do these videos for you guys, to warn you and give you guys the real information and tie this all in together. Why I would, if I was a registered voter, I would be a Republican, maybe moderate conservative or libertarian, but that's why I lean more to the right. I know the history behind the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party did a lot of damage to black people. And it was a sister who said this, because they voted for the Jim Crow laws, which black people weren't allowed to use certain restrooms and bathrooms. I found out that was the Democratic Party. You can look that up. That wasn't the Republican Party. Republican Party, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, they were Republicans, by the way. Even though the Rockefellers were responsible for starting historically black college universities, it was predominantly still Republicans who started historically black college universities. You look up the policies, Obama and Biden decreased funding of HBCUs. That's why the students at Howard University, not only, I will say, because of mismanagement, were sleeping in tents. If you guys saw that scandal on the news, you can see what they do is they have this fake outrage, or they weaponize the outrage and wokeism in the black community. They'll report the stories that they only want black people to know about or hear to fit their narrative, but they don't tell the full story because they want to keep black people on the Democratic plantation, because they mainly use the Democratic plantation because they know most people who vote Democrat don't think or not as politically astute. Not saying there's more people that are aware of the political issues. So I'm not saying everybody, but they know the way the Democrats are structured. A lot of people, black people, don't challenge them. But fortunately, there's groups that are waking up. And I do fully, wholeheartedly support reparations and think it needs to happen on a massive level. And it's a great travesty that it has not happened. And I would even go as far as to quote, and I would sound like a liberal, but I would say to those who have the ability to vote yes for reparations, if you don't do this, you are on the wrong side of history. And it's sad this has not happened yet. And black men deserve a special type of reparations for what we have been through. And there's an argument I'm not trying to make this a battle of the sexes, but we have been on the front lines. I just laid it out and so many things, and slavery votes, Denmark, Vesey, Nat Turner. Just before I give Harriet Tubman her props. She was a rare one. You know, amongst black women, they call her Black Moses. She was a real one, but it wasn't a lot of her. But mostly all throughout history, men are the great inventors. We're the firefighters. When there's natural disasters, we're the electrical workers. We're the plumbers. You know, we're the security guards. We're the policemen. You know, who are you going to have? We have a world of wokeism. Who's going to be the firefighters? Who's going to be the plumbers? Who's going to do the electrical work? When there's power outages, when there's natural disasters, for earthquakes and stuff, it's mostly men who do those jobs. So we are important. We play a role in this civilization, in this society moving forward. And we will not progress to a type 1 or type 2 civilization if we allow these elite scumbags to continue to do what they're doing. You know, so we're going to continue. We're going to need women to be on the front lines, not afraid to stand up if you have the skill set. I understand. I looked up my birth chart as well. That has something to do too, because I looked up a certain individual was born in the year of the tiger. He's an Aquarius like myself. Someone who I highly admire. And I say that's no wonder, because I think in some instances the tiger is more powerful than the year of the dragon. I think the dragon is powerful too, but I told a friend of mine, just like in the animal kingdom, because in the Chinese zodiac, notice the Eastern chart, they go by the animal sign. Some call it, kind of refer to it as like the Ayurvedic chart, because it goes way back. The Ayurvedic is more so like the Hindu, Indian chart. Don't quote me exactly, because they have a separate chart and they have a separate history of Pali and Sanskrit. They have one of the oldest languages and civilizations, just like the Manchurian people, who we call the modern day Chinese to this day. But the Eastern chart, it's not a coincidence. And I said, I wish I was born a certain sign, I would be able to do more. But I do think that does play a role in the skill sets that certain people have. So I would say, look up and don't run away from your calling, whatever it may be. But if you recognize you were one of those people, this guy in particular, I said I don't know if he's aware, but he's in his calling. I looked him up. He was born the year of the tiger, and he's an Aquarius, like myself. And I'm also left-handed, by the way. So I think outside the box. By the way, I'm naturally a lefty Alado. I'm simply unique. That was actual lyrics from a friend of mine's mixtape. Well, he was left-handed. A rap group that I was part of years ago. All three of us were left-handed. But I'm a real one. I'm going to give you the real information, the truth. And other people, I encourage, need to stand up. If you have the ability, we're going to need as many people as possible to defeat this new world order and the agenda, because these people, they use different tactics. It's not only could be just the kill shot, which I heard they're attempting to bring back sometime in 2025. They already have it planned, just like the previous one. Been informed not too long ago. This was, you look up redacted media. They plan on bringing that back. Yes, you heard it first. One of the first places. This other, what do you call it, YouTube channels, content creators that have reported on this. But I'm just sharing this with you guys so you all are aware. They are planning on bringing that back. So just understand, they're at these Davos meetings. They're planning our future. That's set to take place January 16th through the 20th in Davos, Switzerland. I heard our Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been invited. With their tapping her. They're going to try to convince her to run for president. I know what that's about. And she could change, even though she did say she isn't running in 2024. But don't buy that. You know, that she easily could run. Let me see. Larry Fink from BlackRock, that I was informed about him from a friend of mine. That's the private equity firm that Lester Holt from MSNBC Nightly News covered. If you know, a lot of people who had suffered from evictions across the country, who were causing people to become homeless or not have as much money in their pocket because of this high rent, high gas prices, you can blame BlackRock is responsible for that. Several representatives have been invited. George Soros' son, Alexander Soros from Open Society Foundation. It's on the list. Alex Jones, go to band.video. That's where I get my real news information from mainly. Stick with AJ. He's a real one. He can break the science down a lot better than myself. They want to, what they plan to do with the implantable chips down the road and how they want to integrate them with your vaccine passport and other things. Yes, this is real. These people, Klaus Schwab is quoted on record where he says you will own nothing but be happy, allegedly. And if you know about, if you have your ears to the ground and you have your eyeglasses on and you've been paying attention, these people do not have our best interest at heart. They're not benevolent people. They're not benevolent. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. The Davos Group, the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg, G20 Summit, these are all integrated. The UN, same thing. They want to get rid of your local politicians over here. They want to install, they already have their implants, but they want to have it where they'll take over local economy. See, they don't have full control of the U.S. They want to install a one world government. And the way they will go about this is they would have what's called they have the European Union, they have the African Union, they have the Asian Union, and then they wanted to install the American Union. This is one of the reasons I was informed Biden was down in Texas, El Paso, to allegedly, or Mexico, to sign off on the treaty for the international, under the disguise of this international trade thing. And see, Klaus Schwab, they also want to get rid of gas running cars, which California is doing. This is another one of their agendas. Let me see what else they want to do. They want to get rid of gas stoves. I was informed recently. A friend of mine exposed. I'm glad I thought about this to let you all know this is important. They want to get rid of all gas stoves. I heard Biden's going to make an announcement, or they want him to mention this. And a friend of mine said that means when they turn the power out, they control the power outages in places that can get cold. That'll cause people to freeze to death. They won't be able to use their gas stoves to stay warm. But that's how a friend of mine told me. He survived last winter. And I remember a former coworker, a girl I used to work with back in 2017, she told me at the time, Brandon, her name, last name, by the way, I'm not going to say her first name. She told me when she went through the power outage we had back in 2017, which was the year my grandfather died. It was the week he died, that was the year my lights had went out, electricity, power. I was one of the unlucky ones. The other side of my apartment complex, they got their power on because the property manager told me they were hooked up to a separate transformer. Yeah, so I was one of the unlucky ones. So when I got back from Cleveland that Monday or by Sunday evening, my electricity was still out, didn't come back on to that Wednesday. So I suffered. And it was cold some of those days. So one of the things to show you how evil this World Economic Forum is, this is coming from Klaus Schwab under the name of the Green Movement or the Agenda 2030, which used to be Agenda 21. See how they're pretending to have your back. See, I'm decompartmentalizing. This is their agenda. See how evil they are? They're going to do this to poor. This will affect and hurt your average middle class or poor middle class people. Or it can hurt anybody. Their lights go out all of a sudden in the wintertime and they need other alternatives to stay warm. So they want, these people are just evil. You see that? So I said a mouthful, but just understand their agenda. They want to get rid of gas cars. I also found out they don't want people riding airplanes. They want to make that private down the road. They want to privatize all of that. So this gets into they want to seize up all the resources. A friend of mine called me earlier, right after I started work. He's a student of Grant Cardone, and said he was listening to Robert Kiyosaki was doing an interview, and said that some elite guy said something about what the elites are doing. They're moving their money south, and I knew what that was about already, because Alex Jones he's talked about this quite a bit, by the way. So they want to he can articulate it better than me, but they want to create scarcity and redistribute their wealth to where they'll have in their control areas access to the amenities and things, and they'll want everybody else to live in this Hunger Games type of neo-feudalistic society. That's real. They are planning Hunger Games for real. I think the actor Jennifer Lawrence, I don't know if she's aware, but they are planning stuff like that. That's not a coincidence why they make those. I used to encourage you guys years ago, check out Hunger Games if you haven't saw it, written based off the book by Susan Collins, Hunger Games and Divergent. By the way, it's another movie a friend of mine put me up on. I didn't know about Divergent. Really excellent movie. I love Divergent. It's another, not a coincidence they make these dystopian movies, by the way. And YouTube did a movie, I'm trying to remember the name, where a big content creator who competed in these boxing matches starred in it. It was called, and Stacey Dash, the actor from Clueless, the show Clueless, who's cousins with the rapper Damon Dash, she was in the movie. She played a school teacher. I won't spoil it for you guys, so this won't be a spoiler alert, but check out The Thinning. The Thinning Part 1 and 2. I believe they didn't do a Part 3 of it because it would tell you how to defeat them. I wanted to see Part 3 so bad. I wish they would work on that. The Thinning Part 3. We need a Part 3 of The Thinning. That was really good. If you guys can look that up, check out the movie called The Thinning Part 1 and 2. That was another real good movie. And you guys will understand what I'm saying better. You may not understand some of this stuff now, but I know some of you guys are really intelligent. So I'm not speaking, but some of you all are new, or say, hey, Dorsey, you went above my head, or you go really deep sometimes. Yeah, I know. I've been told that before. But I try to give you guys information to connect the dots. So I'm not just spewing off the top of the head. I'm just freestyling. I don't even have my notes. I'm not even at my desktop computer. See, if I had my notes with me, you guys will see. So we see we got some more people in the chat. So I'm going to read the chat section before I shut this video down. I read Tom Kimmett's question, when are they going to flip the switch? That is a good question. I was hoping sometime this year, but hey, it's no telling. They've been holding it up. Just know that. They manipulated the markets like we're in a bear market. I see Bitcoin went up, but I don't know if this is a dead cat bounce, where those that know how to read the chart, where this is appears to be a fake run up, like they're going to lead us into a bull and it crashes right back down. I don't know if that's what they're planning. Let me know if you guys can read the charts. I would need somebody in my camp that right now I don't have the money to pay for like a Patreon, $15 a month. But those who are good at reading the charts, if you want a QE Bono exchange with me, because that's what I say, even exchange, no robbery. We can help each other out, sword sharpen sword. Let me know if you know how to read the charts really well. Give a brother a heads up if you know when they're going to crash the market, so I know when to pull out. You know, kind of like Martha Stewart. Remember, she got in trouble for it. They called it insider trading years ago. But I learned it's people that are really skilled and know how to read the chart. So if you guys have some intel, want to contact me privately, so it can help me get out of this 9-to-5 job, so I can make a move on the charts. That would be. I would never forget you. You know, I already got someone on my list. I mentioned. I'm putting in a VIP special category. God willing, they definitely, once I get out of this, they're not going to have to worry about nothing. I'm going to give them exclusive information up front, privately. I'll be up no problem. You know, anything top-notch information that I would say for like Patreon people only, they will get the information because they've supported me tremendously, and I appreciate that they didn't have to do that, and I greatly appreciate that. And I haven't found a lot, but there may be others out there. I was looking for a woman, preferably somebody that would be my wife down the road, because I am still single. I'm a bachelor. I am looking for someone, but I've got to stay focused on the task at hand, because I've been also asked this question. I was considering doing a separate video on this, by the way, because I'm up there in age now. And a friend of mine has questioned me. A lot of my friends, some of my friends are married, but actually half of my friends, I would say, are not. Actually, I can name a handful of my friends that are not. One of my friends got married later. Like, he stayed single for a number of years, so he's not on the list. He asked me recently, he understands sort of what I'm going through, because you guys know when it comes to relationships in the Black community, unfortunately, we're not like other cultures where the parents, you know, link their children up, set their children's marriages to help contribute to that. And culturally, it's not like that. You're pretty much on your own when it comes to that regard. By the way, unlike the way other cultures do things. By the way, but you know, down the road, I'm looking preferably for somebody. You know, it would be nice. I can meet a woman that's really awake, that has no children. Like, I don't have children at all. You know, I think those type of people. I came across a sister's channel, by the way. I was surprised. I forget her name, and she mentions she thinks, I was surprised. There's a lot of women out there that actually think, and they said they talked about how their girlfriends have got trapped dating men with kids. I said, it sounds like we brothers can make the same argument. It's like, why do I always I get choosing signals from women who have children? I would like to get with the woman that does not have kids at all, that's awake to the truth. I'm not saying she got to fight the New World Order. I would do everything in my power. I would actually try to protect her, keep her private, by the way, but we can still, but she would understand me. It's somebody that would be compatible. That would be a game changer. That would be a winner. But finding those type of people seems like are the diamonds in the rough, and maybe I haven't been looking in the wrong places, but I was surprised. I would like to ask the sister whose YouTube channel I came across, that gives advice to women about being celibate, by the way, and she advises actually women more so. I think she said this for guys, but she said that women should only get with guys that if they don't have children, they shouldn't get, because I do know it could create a problem. A lot of times, I don't really cover this because I don't want to try to stir up division or controversy, but in the Black community, there's a big epidemic of a lot of children by single mothers born out of wedlock, and blended families. And I think blended families, in my opinion, are still broken families. It's still going to lead a lot of times to breakups. It's not going to last, because there's spiritual soul ties that these people have with these people. There's unexpected burdens that are sometimes put on relatives unexpectedly who didn't deserve to be in those circumstances, but sometimes some of these people will still look out for them, but they don't understand. They put a burden on the family and things of that sort. But I agree with this sister, and I'm looking for somebody preferably that does. I've dated women with children, multiple women in the past. I've given a chance, so that argument won't fly, but I prefer, even at this age, some say, well, what the age you're at, you know, no, I think I bring a lot more to the table when it comes to that, what I'm able to do, what I'm able to bring to the table. And that's what, you know, it's kind of, was being exposed, a lot of that by Kevin Samuels, rest in peace to, who I was a big fan of. Kevin, by the way, believe it or not, yes, I didn't get around to doing a video about him because so many people out there did it, and I felt like I didn't want to be in a category of clout chasing, by the way. But I'm a student of Kevin Samuels. I've studied dating psychology in the past, very well studied. I knew who AMS was, who actually interviewed Kevin Samuels multiple times. Alpha Male Strategies. I bought his book some years ago. It even had answered my question about some questions I had about my height. Some things I figured out from AMS's book. Big shout out to Alpha Male Strategies. I knew who Tariq Nasheed was. I bought his book, several of his books years ago before he blew up into doing the Hidden Colors documentaries and doing the activism that he does do. I do support what he's doing with the reparations. Big shout out to Tariq Nasheed. I bought his book, The Mac Within, 2 versions of The Art of Macking. I bought AMS's book, Alpha Male Strategies. To show you guys, I'm very well studied. I've studied dating psychology independently on my own. After that, I got involved in sovereignty redemption education because I've known for a long time. I had women tell me years ago when my mother used to take me to her Pride America meetings. They used to tell me, older women, I was still in high school, and they would say, "Are you single? Do you have a girlfriend?" And I would say, "No." They would say, "Fine, focus on getting the money." And women told me this, black women back in the 90s, I remember. They say, "Oh, no, he's good. He needs to focus on getting the money." That's what they used to tell me. Back then, some black women used to tell me. I also had black women, a good friend of the family I got a chance to see a couple of years ago. I ran into someone, big shout out to Rhonda Berry, by the way. I don't normally give full names, but her mother, Faye, was good friends with my father, was a preacher in the church, and they took us in many years ago. Big shout out to them when they used to live in the city. I won't say where they live at now, but when they used to live in Detroit, my parents moved up here from Cleveland, Ohio. And Rhonda used to tell me when I was a young boy, she used to really compliment me. I love Rhonda. She's gorgeous, by the way. I never got a chance to really tell her when I ran into Rhonda a couple of years ago when I was working my other job, by the way. But Rhonda used to warn me when I was I would say younger than high school, when I was like around middle school, we used to go over there and watch movies a lot. And Rhonda used to tell my mom to warn me about women who would set brothers up, black men up with child support and things like that, and baby mamas. So that's why, if you guys are wondering, I've never really touched on this yet. Just using this as an example to show when I mention real names, so you guys know I'm not making stuff up. These are actual people. And I appreciate that advice and compliment she used to give me back then, by the way. And she used to say these same things, I think, about a niece that she had. I don't remember her niece's name, by the way, who's gorgeous as well. I just remember, I think she was light-skinned, but she used to say she saw how we were being raised, our personalities, and she said she went to the same high school I ended up attending. She went years earlier. She went to Cooley, by the way, Thomas M. Cooley High School. That's the high school actually Mike Ilitch went to, rest in peace, to former owner of Detroit Tigers and Red Wings, who a friend of mine used to work for and knew personally, by the way. Rhonda went there, and she warned me years ago, and my mother, by the way, who was my, at the time I was a lot younger. I wasn't even in high school yet. And she said, "You're going to have to watch him, because some of these women," she mentioned inside baseball, what they were doing to set men up. And I happened yesterday to be listening to a male activist that goes by the name Angry Man, was interviewing a male feminist who goes by the name Destiny. It was a real good interview, good debate that they had. Debate just turned into a discussion. Well, to me, it was still a debate. Angry Man brought on some of his allies or other people, still had differences of opinion. And Destiny did a good job. I think he made some valid points. He had blue hair, funny, good interview. I saw it got up to like 1,600 people on one of Angry Man's main YouTube channels. Big shout out to Angry Man Valdez, the work that he's doing over there. And he brought this up. So I can testify what Angry Man is saying, and it's true. And that's why I mentioned the story about Rhonda, what she told me years ago. She warned me. So I am looking down the road. One of my priorities, that's one of the things why they use the banking system as a weapon. And Currency 365, you're welcome to subscribe to his channel. Check out his content as well. And some of his newer videos, he talked about why they are holding Shiba Inu up. They were holding that down. That should have been gone up. How these billionaire whales, these that work for the banker cabal, are coming in suppressing the price like they do with silver and gold. Suppressing the price like they'll buy up $1 billion worth of contracts with the future COMEX Exchange, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and slam the price, keep the price down. Because remember, with the GameStop short squeeze, which I brought up earlier, they don't want people having wealth. and they've really done a number on the black community. That's why you guys hear me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be offensive to some of the white people I know that follow me and say, hey, Dorsey, you do get political sometimes. I do talk about race, talk about different topics. I just have to keep it real at the end of the day. This is what they've done to my people. I do recognize, even though I do lean more to the right for sure. A lot of things, Democrats, they go against my morals. I don't support. And I think the main agenda they're using them to push, like, of course, gun control. I'm pro Second Amendment. I am pro-life, but I wouldn't penalize doctors and stuff for, doing what they do, by the way. But I'm more so, and when it comes to that regard, I lean more to the right than I do the left. But I do support reparations, which a lot of conservatives, even black conservatives, don't support. I do support reparations 100% wholeheartedly. I think it should have happened. That's why I talked about some of his history behind the Democratic Party. A quick rundown, just keep in mind, that's why I always go over this. You guys need to understand they were the ones, they were bad at first. They did a lot of damage, more damage than Republicans have historically. And this was acknowledged by a sister, I don't remember her name. She came out and said this, that they never properly repaired the damage, by the way. But the Democratic Party, once again, they created the Jim Crow laws. They created the black codes. State of Mississippi created its own black codes, by the way. In case you're not aware, you can look this up. Joe Biden was friends with a politician, James Eastland, out of Mississippi, by the way, who was a former plantation owner, I found out. And he was a Democrat, just like Creepy Joe. Let me see, what else with the Democratic Party? They also sent slave captures to attempt to recapture black slaves. By the way, in case you don't know, during a period of Reconstruction, that was after slavery, Lincoln had promised, and that general, and remember I mentioned the Union soldiers, the black Union soldiers, the black men who fought in the Civil War, were promised by the same general that honored Harriet Tubman. If they won, they would receive 40 acres and a mule. That's what translates to today, was the equivalent of supposed to be land. And after Lincoln was assassinated, the president that came after him felt sorry for the white plantation owners, and it was meant to repair the damage, and he ended up redistributing the land back to white plantation owners. Now, some of it was our own negligence too. When I looked up my Jackson ancestry, because I am related from the same family that's tied in to Michael Jackson and Janet, the Jackson 5, the family tree. My great grandfather was Hunter Jackson. I found out by my biological great grandfather, and I was informed by my cousin. This is a true story. I found out back in 2011 officially. And she confirmed to me that he was the uncle of Michael's father, Joe Jackson. I have Jackson in my ancestry. I'm really a Jackson, not a Dorsey. It's the reason my great grandmother, when she got married, she married a white guy, I was told, named Joseph Dorsey. And that's how I got the last name Dorsey, because my father told me when I was a little boy, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about at the time. True story. I know some of you all might laugh. Don't laugh at me. He was buying me the Michael Jackson doll years ago, if you guys remember that, in Cleveland, Ohio, and was telling me that he's your cousin. And I said, shut up, Daddy. He said, he's not my cousin. He said, he's your cousin. And so he actually took me to go meet my actual biological great-grandfather, who I remember meeting one time as a little boy, Hunter Jackson, in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And he told me privately at the time when I was a little boy, my mom actually admitted, she remembers this. And he told me that my grandfather, who had a beef with him at the time, that's my dad's father, he said if he found out, he may get upset. He told me about that, but I did get a chance to meet him. He acknowledged me at the time, said this is my grandson, because we were part of, the other part of the family. But biologically, the man, if you know about DNA, the medical field, we carry the same chromosome. So there's a close relationship. Even my cousin Don, my uncle's daughter, which was my cousin in Ohio, she acknowledged this some years ago when she found out as well, and said that's a close relationship too. I've never met the Jacksons before. I met someone else I used to train with at a martial arts school that told me he's related, and we link up somewhere in the family tree. He's related to the Jackson family as well. He moved to California. and said he actually got a chance to meet him before, but I never did. So that's the story. I was going to do a separate video down the road, and I do have the plaque that my cousin gave me that my great grandfather did receive from the Obama administration at the time for turning 100 years old or whatever. They gave it to me at the time. I guess so they acknowledged he was one of the oldest living people in Cleveland, Ohio. I was informed. I didn't get a chance to go to his funeral. I would have had I known, but my cousin found out like at the last minute when she found out through the Cleveland Plain Dealer paper, and they gave a historic funeral, which it was only a handful of people I was informed they gave a historical funeral to. So I left a memo on his obituary that's still online. You may be able to look up. By the way, I gave a shout out to, they had an obituary, the people that knew him. So rest in peace to the legend, my great grandfather Hunter, Aruthius Hunter Jackson, or they call Bishop Hunter Jackson. And I found out, I didn't know he was like the man behind the scenes. He had lived in Detroit, Michigan at one time, had ties to Cleveland. I said, I always wonder, I thought I saw these people when I was young that would like look like other family members of people that looked like me. And I wondered, and I ran into these girls at an apartment building I used to work at, and they kept telling me I looked like this guy. And I said, I see why now. So I got a lot of cousins, people, of course, I haven't met because, you know, there's a lot of Rolling Stones out here. They're like the saying with the song years ago, Papa was a Rolling Stone. So I've got a lot of family members, relatives, I don't even know. But that's a little story for you guys. I am officially, yes, part of the Jackson answer and proud of it. Because I had a friend to say, why would you want to be related to a family like that? And I said, doesn't everybody's family have some type of dysfunction in it? So why are you exclusively pointing that out? He's like, yeah, you do have a point. I was like, yeah, come on now, really. But I wanted to know where my real roots were, my ancestry. I did look that up, and down the road, when I get access to the money, because I actually discovered the family members from that family were on some of the genealogy sites that I looked up, by like Ancestry.com, some of the other sites, they had profiles on there. When I did my own independent research as well, and I will continue down the road, once I'm in a position, I have the funds to get that done, I will get a DNA test stuff taken care of because I want to go further and find out. A lot of people are doing that nowadays. Of course, many of you all have heard. And I encourage you all to maybe trace your roots back, because a lot of us, through the transatlantic slave trade and other things that happened, and Native Americans that were already here, many of us are mixed into the population, by the way, and don't know who we are or where we come from, by the way. So I encourage you, and that's part of, I won't go into, that gets in the status correction about who we really are and where we come from. Yep. So I'm going to read the comment section, and I'm going to really shut things down. I went a lot way over my time, by the way. Appreciate you guys rocking with me. Don't forget to thumbs up the video if you like the content that I put out. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Okay, Dre Mills read that. That's right. Shane Caton says absolutely. Shane Caton says he does. He's horrible. Okay, this is one earlier, probably when I was talking about the certain individuals dealing with the Davos group. The Democrats been pumping, or that's either when I was talking about Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, or he could have been referring when I was talking about Soros or Klaus Schwab, one of the few. I'm reading the comment section right now. Democrats have been pimping us forever. Yes, I agree with you, Dre Mills. Shane Caton says Trump is a self-made billionaire. Obama had a come up after leaving. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Like, I'm not the only one. My friend put me up on that. And it's like these black women put him on a fucking pedestal and act like Trump did so much horrible things, like this dude personally hurt them. And Obama basically stole all this fucking money. He comes. So I remember when they mentioned his net worth when he got in the office. They said Obama was worth $4 or $5 million. Remember when they talked about his books between him and Hillary and his wife Michelle? And I won't even get touching into that. You guys know where I can kind of go. I found out because I used to kind of think that, well, I won't go there, but you know, you kind of read between the lines, but I won't go there. But you guys, I have a good memory, and I remember what they were saying back then. And now this dude, I heard, I was appalled when I heard Obama was in talks to buy the Phoenix Suns. I think they recently got sold. I forgot who bought them, the Phoenix Suns basketball team. But he was in talks to purchase them. I heard allegedly him and LeBron still might be in talks to buy this future Las Vegas franchise team that's not going to be coming in until a few years or whatever. But I said, where did this dude get all this money from? You guys act like I can see you guys. I can name a whole laundry list of things that Democrats have done far worse. If you've ever voted liberal or Democrat, I can name a laundry list far worse. Trust me, I put that on both my dead grandmother's graves. Far worse than what Trump has done, even scandal-wise. Worse than the taxes. Okay, let's go with Obama with Justice Antonin Scalia. Let's go with Lois Lerner tax scandal. Let's go with Operation Fast and Furious. Oh, let's go with Obama. I remember had a local scandal in Detroit with the migrants when they were frozen. He had the same scandal that Trump had. I remember that when that was reported on the news. Oh, he deported a significant number of people. I can't say if he still held the record, but that was put out. They covered that up. Oh, man, it's just the hypocrisy that I see out of this. And you guys, I'm not even a registered voter, but I know more about politics. I tell a friend of mine that's a conservative, I'm able to keep up more so than he is, even with some of his conservative issues or what's going on with that. And I'm not even registered to vote. That shows you I'm paying attention. It's easy to do. Easy. I just get frustrated. Forgive me, guys, for sounding like I'm ranting. But, you know, when you're at this level and you have dum-dums that just still follow these people like idiots, like the Pied Piper or whatever, they get their mainstream media from the lamestream media that's propagandized. And tell Obama claims had a scandal-free presidency. Muammar Gaddafi, who was the guy from the embassy? What was his name? Ambassador Chris Stevens. Several Navy SEALs and a military official got killed, along with Ambassador Chris Stevens with Benghazi. Hillary and Obama responsible for that. Benghazi. Justice Antonin Scalia, answer to that. What else? Operation Fast and Furious continued from the Bush administration with Eric Holder. I answer to that. Let me see. There's other things I have to write down. Remind me, but Obama has a laundry list. Oh, the birth certificate thing, which actually Hillary brought out, by the way, was the originator of when she ran against him in the primaries. Understand that wasn't Trump originally, and it was Sheriff Joe Arpaio out of Maricopa County, Arizona, with the team of investigators. So I'm paying attention. Of forensic people, of lawyers and graphic artists that did a full forensic investigation and discovered. Remember, Obama put out that particular birth certificate. There's a lot of things to unpack. And a lady, they even killed people. Lady that worked for the Social Security Administration, was part of the Abercrombie family. That brand, I've seen them at Somerset Mall. Ended up dying in a plane crash or something. They killed people to cover this up. The scandal with that minister Obama had with that church in Chicago. What was his name? Sheriff, I call him Sheriff, Pastor Jeremiah Wright. Remember those homosexual men, because he was running the down low ring through the church. That's how Obama met his wife, Michelle. She used to work for the mayor's office in Chicago. You guys don't know about that. I learned that from former national security agent Wayne Matson, who used to appear as a guest on Alex Jones's show. And I know he didn't like Trump. He did an updated video where Alex brought him on there, but he used to give a lot of information, whatever. And he used to work he mentioned former whistleblower for the National Security Agency, Wayne Matson. I used to mention. You guys are wondering. I don't just make up stuff. I'm giving you guys factual information. You can look up who Wayne Matson is. Used to work for the National Security Agency. Ooh. So you can say, "Ooh, Dorsey, I'm not making this up." So this is not fake news. You can check Truth Check and all that other bullshit that then came up with the Snoops.com, Snoops, whatever the fuck. No, I'm very well studied, by the way. Yes, booyah. Got you. Look up Wayne Matson. That's where I got the information from. Damn, man, it just gets me when these people lie, and my own relatives, a lot of liberal women fall for this crap. So thank you. Shane, right? Yeah, Trump is a self-made, got his money through hotels, casinos, apartments, etc. You know, he didn't come into office and steal money, and then he donated his presidential check. You idiots, up front, you dum-dums. Learn your fucking political science. I'm not even a registered voter. See this, and I know more than they dumbasses. Well, let me stop. Drupal Sosa says they will blame the pandemic for the economic, for for the economic fall, but then we'll replace useless people with robots at places of work. Yes, they are planning that. It says, yes, the Klan created the Democratic Party endorsed by the Vatican. Wow, very interesting. Now, the part I don't understand when you mentioned endorsed by the Vatican, I don't know what part you mean by that. If you're still listening, if you can explain what you mean. Did the Vatican, were they back then that they endorsed the Ku Klux Klan back then? Is that what you mean? So I think, yeah, they were supposed to be Christian. I think I heard, yeah, because they did claim to be, even though they were acknowledged to be a terrorist organization. But a lot of people, Democrats, often try to put the so-called white supremacy argument on the Republican Party when it was the Democrats who created members that organized and started that were members of the Ku Klux Klan. I was informed. It's either they started the Ku Klux Klan or members of the Ku Klux Klan started the Democratic Party. The other way around. Don't quote me exactly, but I did look it up. And the Grand Wizard spoke at their convention. This is factual information. Democrats also created Jim Crow laws. You remember those? Democrats created black codes, because I had liberal people trying to say this was Republicans. The New York Times even lied and tried to say the guy who was friends with Joe Biden, James Eastland, I think he was a former senator. He was a former plantation owner. They tried to say he was a Republican. So they'll change the stuff to fit their narrative, to fit their agenda. But no, Democrats, this is damage they did. They had people lynched. Democrats, I even informed my mother, Democrats also lynched. They went after white people. Remember when Harriet Tubman, if you saw the original movie with Cicely Tyson, rest in peace to the actor, Cicely Tyson, the real movie, not the movie with the propaganda of a woman named Harriet that was written by the white women who put propaganda in there that black men acted as slave captors, is totally inaccurate. But the accurate movie, the original one that Cicely Tyson played in, the Amish people, which I found out about, the Christians played a role. A friend of mine was telling me, well, a lot of black people that are Muslims and stuff should not poo-poo Christians, the Pilgrims, because they didn't believe in slavery, that the Democratic slave catchers would also come after them and kill them. In one of the movies, I think that the original Harriet Tubman movie, they burned down a farm. People that risked their lives to harbor Harriet Tubman in the Underground Railroad were risking their lives as well. Amish people, Quakers, people like that, because their Christian beliefs, they were, fundamentalists. For that time, they didn't believe in slavery. And they also, like I said earlier, many of them don't vote. I wasn't trying to hate on them, but just saying many of these other groups don't make it a fair, balanced discussion why some people don't vote. But the Quakers, and it's another group I found out called the Shakers. Those people that helped harbor Harriet Tubman. The movie pointed out, the original movie, which was more accurate, historically accurate, was Cicely Tyson played in it than the new woke heritage. They're doing this like they did with the new Black Panther movie, this wokeism stuff. But the original one was actor Cicely Tyson, which I watched years ago with my mother, which I remember because she was breaking it down to me when I was asking her questions at the time. It was the Quaker people. They were Christians. They risked their lives too. So understand, Democrats would even kill white people, would kill their own people, rescuing and helping black people, to show you how evil. This is the history of the Democratic Party. They don't tell you about. Understand this. That's why some of these people you see, they're dropping off. I was up over 20 people listening as liberals, maybe some getting triggered because I'm telling the truth. Because I know I have relatives that watch me. You need to stop voting Democrat. They're bringing in the New World Order. Don't support them. They're evil. That's why I tell you, some people say, well, Dorsey, you can't pick a lesser of two evils. Yes, you can. But that's why it's a group of Republicans that are for we the people that are going after rhinos and neocons for working with Democrats. That's the two heads of the same snake, but they're distinguishedly separate. And they're saying that's why we more of the people need to get involved as activists, not only warning people in other ways if you do participate in that, to not be part of that establishment, but stand up to them and expose it. And that's what I admire, those group of conservatives that did what they did to send the message to McCarthy, by the way. When people talk about the two heads of the same snake. Yes, I'm going to read Dan Mills' comment. says, not to mention Biden was trying to, it says, stick 87,000 new IRS agents on the working people. Yeah, I heard about that. That's why I also mentioned under Obama, if you remember, there was a scandal, look it up, called the Lois Lerner scandal. And that's why I brought up Dr. Ben Carson. Separately, he had Dr. Ben Carson targeted after Dr. Ben Carson gave an idea at a prayer breakfast he was invited to a second year in a row. And then he mentioned after this had occurred, he did an interview and said the White House contacted him and said they were disappointed in his comments about at the prayer breakfast. I saw Obama there when I re-looked it up some years ago when he gave an idea when this controversy, remember, that was going on, who was going to vote for the Affordable Care Act that's known as Obamacare. And Dr. Ben Carson gave a good idea because that was put in by the elites. Probably these same scumbags tied in with the World Economic Forum. These elite fucking idiots, elite scumbags. It was written by big insurance companies too. Broken down, by the way. I mean, I had coworkers that told me that worked in security with me, said their families couldn't even afford it. And I wasn't going to pay it. I had it at one time. I used to be with United Healthcare. I got rid of that shit. I told my mom, I'm not paying $200 fucking a month. They can kiss my ass. I had a coworker told me he wanted his family to pay $800 a month. He didn't even make that in his salary sometimes. I mean, or in one, at least in one paycheck. You know, I had multiple coworkers tell another guy told me he wanted his family for his kids to pay $400 a month. That's crazy. Just for some help. I understand healthcare is very important. Don't get me wrong, to have yourself checked out is a whole nother discussion. I'm not poo-pooing that. Yes, if you keep up, and that's why I do things where I started taking my health serious, like when I got really sick. But I look into holistic medicine. Now, first, if it's not like a major injury, I didn't get in a car accident where I have to be taken to the hospital or sold up, God forbid, you know, they won't try to kill me or nothing. But other things, like I look into holistic medicine, I take supplements, which I can do a whole separate video about. You want to do those things because the medical mafia wants you on pharmaceuticals and things that there's even YouTube channels that break down how the side effects they have on the body, like taking painkillers and stuff like that. By the way, yep. Dre Mills says Dixiecrats. Yup, that's what the Democratic Party was. Yup, Dixiecrats. He said, I'm an Aquarius too. All right, whoop whoop, Aquarius in the building. That's what's up. All right. Drupal Sosa Marquez says, in Holland or the Netherlands, they said it was illegal to collect wood because people were investing in wood stoves in case of power outages. Yeah, that's a good example. So see how these World Economic Forum people are trying to disguise this as this is going to save the planet under the green movement. They have that what's that little girl, Greta Thunberg, as like a spokesperson, just like they used with the gun propaganda with the kids with David Hogg. I woke up the next day one morning, they had these kids protesting. I said, oh, they getting ready to weaponize the kids through the school system. I just heard not too long ago, Klaus Schwab announced they want to use the kids. They want to brainwash the children. He just announced that. And then a friend of mine just told me, who's in Novi, his daughter goes to a school in the Novi school district, said that he got upset. His daughter told him she's watching the CNN kids, and he didn't even know about it. So they're brainwashing, indoctrinating. The kids in Novi are supposed to have one of the best school districts, predominantly maybe conservative leaning overall, or maybe one of the last few, but I don't know about it anymore because they trying to push this wokeism everywhere. You know, critical race theory stuff, not the real history, by the way, but this other stuff. So yeah, that's messed up. Says in Holland or the Netherlands, they said it was illegal to collect wood because people were investing in wood stoves in case of power outage. Yeah, see, they don't want you to be self-sufficient. They don't want you to be dependent like what Biden wants to outlaw, and Ocasio-Cortez defends her. Watch Ocasio. She's an agent. Get her out of there. Vote her the fuck out if you can. Pay attention to her. She's an op. She's opposite. She's an op. Ocasio-Cortez, get her out of there. If you're awake to the truth, you guys vote her out of there. She's not a real one. You know, to my real ones out there, Mikasa Sukasa, to my real Latin family out there. And I support the people in Brazil protesting. That was wrong, dirty what Lulu did. He's a member too of the World Economic Forum and what they're trying to do to Bolsonaro, who was a real one. And they ran him out of there. He knew he had to get out of there because they said Lulu was going to trump up some charges, and that's why they're trying to extradite Bolsonaro back to Brazil, which he's not responsible for. He actually called for peace, I remember, before he left, but the people knew because they cheated so overwhelmingly, more so than what they did here, and the people there are more united culturally. So yeah, I support the protesters over there in Brazil. To my people, mi casa, su casa. You know, I don't know if that translates, but my house, you're my family. I support you people. Continue to fight and kick their ass down the road to do what you need to do to go after that dude and get his ass out of office. You know, do what you need to do. Kick his ass, that Lulu fuck piece of shit guy. Excuse my French, but yeah, I get passionate sometimes. By the way, with my Latin family, let me see. Read. It says passports to get from state to state. Says Ajubal says, I enjoy your on the run format style for a podcast. Amen. Appreciate you, Ashe. Amen to you as well. Thank you, Ajubal, for the compliment. Dre Mills says, Kevin Samuels mentioned the Great Reset on one of his videos. Yeah, I think Kevin was, he was awake to the truth. He was speaking code too because he knew his main platform was. See, that's one of the things I studied before I got involved in sovereignty. I studied dating psychology. I'm just going to give you guys a name, but I was going to do a separate video on this. But I mentioned to you guys about AMS earlier, that's Alpha Male Strategies, who actually interviewed Kevin Samuels multiple times. I bought his book, his original book, Alpha Male Strategies. I bought Tariq Nasheed's book years ago. I knew who Tariq Nasheed was. I studied David D'Angelo out of Chicago. Studied under Carlos Zuma. Big shout out to the Alpha Male books from years ago. Carlos Zuma is the name. He was a martial arts instructor and he was a dating coach out of California. I studied under David Wygant, who I commend, one of the most dynamic dating coaches that I ever studied under. Very inspirational, very balanced, very powerful pieces. Like I don't need the people on YouTube, but I still follow them. I understand where they're coming from. But if I had got the money already, I have materials and stuff from years ago. I've already archived, and I had actually. I think the term high value male, by the way, has been re-implemented. It's now the term what used to be alpha male is high value. I think a lot of women don't understand what the term alpha male means. I told a friend, he was giving me some information. Alpha males are actually a term to describe, it was related to the animal kingdom to describe, and in human nature, men that are alphas, that are leaders, to describe a personality archetype. With high value male, Kevin Samuels became really popular amongst another demographic in that space of pickup artists and dating coaches who came up with this term, high value male. It's a rehash of the term alpha male from years ago, by the way. And I think it was genius because he was able to market it, by the way. But it comes from alpha male. These guys, these dating gurus I studied, they were really big. David D'Angelo, a friend of mine who's related to Bert's Warehouse, who I know the son. It's like a popular place. If you're from the Detroit area, you know about Bert's Warehouse. I know Bert Jr., and I talked to him years ago because I know his brother. I'm real close to his brother, one of his brothers. And Bert used to tell me some years ago when his other brother was living by Wayne State University, I knew somehow, I didn't know he knew. I may have mentioned it about David D'Angelo. He wanted to check out some of my material. Maybe his brother told him, and I shared it with him. By the way, I couldn't remember because I was pretty surprised that Bert brought it up out the blue. But these guys were really big back in their time. So it's just YouTube is more new, where people have been allowed to blow up and get really large and huge. But a lot of these dating coaches that I mentioned are really big in their respective genres, just like Andrew Tate was. So once again, I studied under not only AMS, Alpha Male Strategies, I studied Tariq Nasheed, I studied Carlos Zuma, David D'Angelo, David Wygant. David Wygant would have boot camps in California. He would kind of challenge me like some of my friends would, because they knew I had a shyness dealing with women. By the way, I have a shy side to be honest. Kind of similar to Raven Simone. I can become lively when it comes to kind of filming and stuff like that. But my personal private life, I've been more shy, but I had to develop at the time, work on my character to develop my confidence. And reading these books, they helped me understand these things. And they got into the philosophy. And I had to explain to my mother, she thought it was about just pimping or macking women or pimpology. I had to explain to her, it's not about that. These books also teach men to become better men. They're self-help, a form of self-help books, many of them. I'm not saying you have aspects of that get into pimpology or things of that sort, but mainly the books help men become actual men instead of being beta male providers. But they teach men how to man up and what we've been doing wrong and what women actually respond to. They help us understand women's psychology. I also read a book called What Women Want. I had Repurchased. That was an eye-opening book where they interviewed thousands of women from actual testimonies. They changed the names around. Also had a friend of mine give me a book that was written by a woman because he felt I needed to have things from a woman's perspective. So I have a book that was written by a woman from her perspective. And I even learned even deeper things of how when they had monthly cycles around certain times of the month, why they would respond to men a certain way, or how they would be more susceptible to cheating during certain times of the month. I've learned things of that sort. Allegedly, I started to get an eye-opener with some of my friends who were players who were really advanced, knew about. So one of my friends, actually my mentor years ago, he told me it's funny at the time. He still had it wrapped up. Said he didn't need it. He said he would think it was given to him. So he gave it to me. It was a red book. I don't remember the name of the author, but I still have it. And it was written by a woman, and she talked about this. So guys and men would help. It would help them understand to create better relationships. You see, it's the concept. So a lot of these books are self-help books to teach in relations. Remember how they had Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, those series. So I studied things along those lines, and a lot of the dating coaches that I mentioned to you all studied these different types of books. They studied Robert Kiyosaki, these philosophical books. I learned this from David D'Angelo. He put a list and encouraged us to, it helps you learn more about life and understanding human relations, like books with Dale Carnegie, etc., by the way. So I studied those things before I got involved in any of this information, but I thought at the time that sovereignty was important, and as I was learning through my journey, by the way. But down the road, that's things I would like to talk about. I have discussed very rarely before. I know about how women test men. I didn't know AMS, alpha male strategies, became really popular for calling those shit tests. I just used to refer to them as regular secret tests. I knew about how women test men, whether they are aware of it in their nature or not. I'm aware of that as well. And it's to kind of keep you on your toes. And I talked about a lot of men, when they become married, they become simps, and how to fix your marriage. I even coached a couple of my friends privately who are already married. And I reminded them, one of them even recently, hey, look, dude, I try not to get personal in your personal business, but I just put it out there. I reminded him, I gave him some good advice, what he needed to do. And I shared the same secrets with another friend of mine. I have several black books. I have literally like the Holy Grail. I just have to, of course, those things are time consuming when I have to dedicate time aside to all the other things that I'm into. Just to give you guys an inside look at my cousin, my older cousin, had told me, it said, if women, they come over your apartment and see all those books, he said, he recommended that I hide the books. And I said, I came from an aspect to say, hey, because why should I hide the books from them? I'm real at the end of the day. And I did just this, and I gave at one time, one of my former girlfriends who visited some years ago, by the way, I gave her a tour, and she was actually impressed by the books, by the way. So I said, I always knew this. Different guys work there. They call it their game differently. But just being real, being authentic at the end of the day can work wonders for you without you trying to fake who you are. I learned about that, or clout chasing, because you have a lot of that nowadays. So I learned, and that's why I studied under a guy named Ryan Williams, who I also admire, by the way, who was like an international dating coach, a player that taught me another aspect of inner game, how to internalize and harmonize with women, and what he had learned from traveling overseas. And he helped me develop a natural aspect of natural masculinity and things of that sort, to home in on the natural things that women are attracted to. So that's a little bit of my background and experience I have truly in reading these dating books. I had DVDs still of all of these different people I named. Some of them, if you look the names up, they're on YouTube, by the way. I looked up years ago, saw many of them. I even had material I never really finished going over. Give you guys a background, but I'm very well studied in that regard. Things I forgot about, and that's something down the road to live a complete life, by the way, because that's another way they affect the community. They target different communities through the family structure. That's why I don't support Black Lives Matter, because they don't support the nuclear family structure. I support the nuclear family structure, the organic family structure. I understand things do happen because I had both my parents for a number of years, but I went through a rare experience as well where my parents got divorced. Went through a divorce. I confirmed this with my mother some years back. And so I know what it's like to kind of be raised in a single parent household, but I also know what it's like to have both my parents in a household at one time. So I had to learn. I had a lot to learn going through the school of hard knocks. I had to man up on my own. I'm still learning things, by the way. And even this past summer of last year, I was offered, I'm in a supervisory position now, which is a leadership role. And I had found out not too long ago before that in my astrological sign, my midheaven is in Aries in the Western chart. And I was shocked. I said, I always wondered why in certain roles I took on sub roles, sub management roles, or sub leadership positions. I flourished. I didn't really like them, but I was wondering why I always flourished in that. Once I found out that my midheaven, when I learned about the deeper breakdown of your astrological chart, was in Aries, I said, okay, that makes sense. That is the reason why. So, but yeah, I'm gonna finish reading the comments, and I'm gonna let you guys get to bed. I know many of you guys may have turned in already. Appreciate the comment. Yep. So, yep. Dre Mills said Kevin Samuels mentioned. Yep, I read that already. The Great Reset. Yep, Kevin was a real one. That's my dude, man. Rest in peace too. Corey Moore says, I think it is. Says, I think Tether is going to collapse. Okay, wow. I've heard about that. That's interesting. As Corey says, you got any XRP? Yeah, I do, but I got to get a cold storage wallet. I was advised by one of my top sources. I still don't have a cold storage wallet yet because I heard, that they could be planning a potential cyber attack or power outage. I'm prepared to a degree for the power outage if they do something with that. I have somewhat of a strategy, but if they do something else, I'm not like, we hit an EMP strike or something, I'll be, pretty messed up. Lamar Spoken Lee says, yeah, it works out like that. Okay. Hadrupo Sosa Marquez says, when Obama bought his senator chair in Chicago off that guy, that Trump pardoned. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that scandal. Yeah, that was with Boyakovich. Yeah, who Trump happened to pardon. And he gave a speech and even said he was very elated and said Trump didn't have to do that because he was a Democrat. Well, he recognized that, yeah, that was another scandal that Obama had. I forgot all about that. Yeah, he sold that. See, they did their damnedest just like they protect LeBron in the NBA, who Jordan is actually the greatest, greater than LeBron, by the way, statistically and analytically. Advanced analytics have proven NBA by top NBA analysts have quoted, not my words. But they do this with LeBron. He had actual scandals they covered up, too similar to Obama, just with like the NBA. Well, thank you, Drupal, for reminding me. I forgot all about. See, I told a friend of mine I would just have to write down, but it's a long laundry list of evil that Democrats have done. Because when you debate women, sometimes they practice psycho-projection. So they'll try to disacknowledge or they'll try to shift the conversation or cut you off when you're kicking them or beating them so well in the debate discussion. Because they swear Obama was this, that, and the other, and Trump did this. But I noticed when Obama got in, it's Bush's fault. Bush did this. But when Trump got in, how come it wasn't Obama's fault? Trump messing stuff up now. Y'all are so full of shit. I hear these are the actual arguments from a lot of liberal women. I read messages on Facebook from relatives when I discuss politics. So I'm just calling the BS out, by the way. Don't mean to get you triggered, but it is for what it is. You know, I come across that, by the way. But thank you for that. Yep, that was another scandal he was part of, other than Benghazi with Ambassador Chris Stevens' death, Justice Antonin Scalia, Operation Fast and Furious, targeting Dr. Ben Carson separately, the Lois Lerner IRS scandal targeting Americans separately, also the NSA scandal. He signed the ND National Defense Authorization Act before he left and pretends to be the savior, like Jamie Foxx joked around and called Barack Hussein Obama our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And we just laid out all the scandals he's had, by the way, and claims he had a scandal-free presidency. But I just proved it wrong. Thank you. That's why a lot of people may have jumped off. They got triggered. Because the Vatican invested in slavery via the Black Slave Codes. Yeah, and the Pope actually apologized years ago for that. And did you know they actually put something? There was another apology made recently by the Vatican. I think I bookmarked it. I have to find it. But they made another apology for their role in the transatlantic slave trade. That's why it's a damn shame, like what Kanye's going through. I support what these Jewish people are using black people as their pawns. By the way, they got fucking reparations. They're getting the reparations check. I was at the grocery store. This is a true story. I was in Southfield, Oak Park, before they moved this Kroger down the streets where large Jewish communities at. And I was at the cash register. I saw the cashier, and there's a Jewish guy right in front of me before I was getting ready to make my purchases. And the cashier kind of had the screen partially turned, and this dude had over 5,000 in his account on the screen. He was wearing a yarmulke hat and everything. So I know they getting a fucking reparations check like a welfare check. We never, for all the damage, the atrocities black Americans have gone through, and we still haven't gotten reparations, and black people still continue to vote Democrat and vote especially. And I just say, Republicans, they were at least, Trump was listening, hearing our issues, like when he invited Ice Cube and said, I'll increase the offer, when Ice Cube met with him. And remember Lil Wayne met with him. He pardoned, was it Kodak Black, rapper Kodak Black, former mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, known as the hip-hop mayor. Trump did this. You know, was willing to entertain, increase the money for the black agenda that what's the dude from the Breakfast Club that talked about. He teamed up with Snoop Dogg, other people behind the scenes. Ice Cube just took it on as the front man because he said, don't play this game with me. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, but the Republicans were more willing to work with them. And remember, this is before Biden stole his way in. Him and Kamala said, we'll holler at you after we get into office or whatever. They stole their way in. But Trump said he was willing to increase the offer. And Trump already agreed to make what's that holiday, Juneteenth, a national holiday. He already agreed. Remember, he moved his rally he had in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because he knew some of the history, by the way, because people got triggered around the time when, because the Democrats burned down Tulsa. That was the Democratic Party, in case you don't know, black Democrats. That was the Democratic Party that was responsible, because the Ku Klux Klan, like someone confirmed in the chat, they were the Democrats. They had their highest chapters, because I read this many years ago. I looked up what Black Wall Street was, because I wanted to know what it was. And it talked about they were responsible for burning down the so-called Black Wall Street. Yeah, Democrats did that. Shit, you don't know, seriously. Look it up. Says, where can we get the Sestacute Trust? That's a good question. I have to get back with you kind of on that. The Sestacute Trust is already through, you are actually already have it through the Enlingus. By the way, it's based on how you operate. By the way, Jupiter says, I'm a Sigma male. Okay, yeah, I've heard about, that's what I was also described as well. Some said I'm not necessarily maybe an alpha, I'm a Sigma male. Because if I was taller, I would definitely, I feel like, I know for sure I'm in the body, I feel like I'm in the body of a beta male, but I'm the mind of an alpha male. I'm very mentally strong. I'm mentally tough, by the way, I would say. But that was learned through experience. By the way, I wasn't always this way. I have a mental toughness, but I try to maintain balance. But that's what a friend of mine described me as, a Sigma male. I'm familiar with that as well. That's interesting. You're aware of the Sigma males. That's cool, because there is a difference between Sigma males, alpha males, beta males. Actually, the lowest form of males are gamma males. They're worse. They're the ones that are incels. By the way, that the women see. The women don't get to the intricacies. they just make generalizations and don't distinguish. Like there's a difference between alpha males aren't jerks. Those are rude boys, and jerks are not the same as alpha males. See, they're practicing, rude boys and jerks practice bravado. Alpha males learn to practice genuine confidence. Alpha males are another term for actual high value males. When you develop the personality of a high value male, that's part of the personality traits that you have to develop. That's why there's things I had to pass a test before I developed becoming an alpha male, high value male back in 2006 when I was self-taught, by the way. But there's differences, and beta males, not the incels, those are, that's another level. You also have potentially delta males, but sigma males are like another form of alpha males, but they're more so to themselves. The good example of a sigma male is the basketball player Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, just like LeBron, won championships with 2 different teams, like LeBron is credited for, but he's not as outspoken politically like LeBron, and he's more keeps to himself. That describes a sigma male, by the way, in case you don't know, by the way. So in case you guys, I'm kind of discussing a little bit of dating psychology, some of my old school notes, by the way. Read some of these other comments. It says, greetings to all. Let me see how many people we have in here. Kangaroo Jack says, how about the dong and the dinar? Are we getting closer? That's a good question. By the way, that's a real good question. I think we are, to be honest with you, but the cabal is behind it. They're dragging their feet, as they have been for a long time. If you guys go back and look at the videos I did about XRP, the changeover, and that will help explain. They changed the whole system around. That's what they're in the midst. I heard the larger banks are ready right now, but I hear the smaller banks are not ready yet. In terms of that, they're moving over to blockchain. The little bit that I know, I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. By the way, well, guys, I've got to kind of focus on the road. I've gone well above my time. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. I would like to get to the rest of the comments, but I'm distracted right now. As you guys know, I'm still at the slave plantation. I got to head to my next patrol, my next stop. But I appreciate you guys that do take the time to rock with me, support the channel. Check the description box where to find me on social media. If you want to donate to the channel, you can, and definitely help support the channel. You can cash at me, PayPal. Hit me up if you guys want to see whatever new content down the road. And I will work on trying to come to you guys before, during the day, and things of that sort. But I wanted to let you guys know. I know I got off the topic, but I covered most of it. I want to cover more about the World Economic Forum, the Davos group. I wanted you guys to know they don't really have our best interest at heart. In my closing remarks, they are a sinister organization. They want depopulation. They want to murder us. This is very concerning, and I say this passionately. Please look up, research what I say. I did give a disclaimer, so these are my opinions. But please do your research, look this up, and you will find the information that I'm going over. I think you strongly feel to be highly accurate, by the way. But I just do encourage you all to do your own due diligence in what I'm going over. And with that said, I'm your host at Dorsey's Resource. Thank you for watching. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. They stay in our hearts. You guys have a blessed, wonderful night, morning, wherever you're at. Aribo Dirty, Ashe, Inshallah. Shalom next time. Deuces. Peace.